Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second edition of the New American Vision Dick Measuring Contest. Tonight, I am your host and moderator, Joshua Vandenord. Happy to be with you guys. We're going to be discussing the infamous Nick Fuentes. Is his political strategy the way to go forward, or is it simply paralysis by analysis? All of these questions and more will be answered tonight by our four esteemed panelists, who I will introduce shortly. And I warn you, this may contain graphic scenes of stupidity between four lifelong friends who compete to embarrass each other. This is NAV DMC.
NAV DMC, where debates become blood sports with a new American vision.
What's up, everybody? We got a great show for you tonight. I'm excited to be here with you. I'm going to be behind the scenes, so this is the last you'll see of this pretty face. But thank you for coming to the New American Vision. I know a lot of you guys know and are coming here from the channels of our esteemed panelists, John Ward, Zeb Boykin, Atlas Thugged, and Tom Foe. But tonight, if you're not already, please subscribe to the New American Vision, where we post all sorts of content. That's where Groyper Report is, the circuit, factions, one day.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. All that and more here on the New American Vision. I also want to give a special thanks to Athenor Metallurgy for sponsoring New American Vision, as well as Zeb Boykin and Atlas Thugged and nobody else. Tonight, like I said, we're going to be discussing Nick Fuentes and his political strategy. But going forward, I want to introduce our panelists. Let's go to the ones in arguing in the negative. We have John Ward over here, the professional chain smoker and chuck wrangler, joined, of course, by the Confederate too legit to quit, Zeb Boykin.
Can I, 1 second before we jump in, before you go on, I completely forgot why we named this NAV DMC until you said it a second ago. I completely forgot, but this is a dick measuring contest. Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely. And arguing in the affirmative for Nick Fuentes, we have Tom Foe, the chicken who could use a good licking, and Atlas Thugged, the Albanian god who holds Groyper Report on his shoulders. Gentlemen, how are we all doing tonight?
Wonderful,
doing
dude.
great.
We're doing good.
I thought you were going to go to all four.
Less Jewish
We
than
can go
you,
to all four real
Josh.
quick.
What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. What, huh? What? Good. I'm excellent.
Now it's a New American Vision production. What was that, John?
I said I'm doing less Jewish than you. I was assuming you were. That was a question of how Jewish we were doing.
I can't help my filthy blood, John.
12%.
But
huh?
all right, so basically, all right, you can come back to me.
Go for it.
Okay. Tonight, essentially how this is going to run is we're going to give 10 minutes to those arguing in the affirmative, which is Tom Foe and Atlas Thugged. They will be rebutted by Zeb Boykin and John Ward, which we will then go to another 10 minutes for the opposition to respond, and then we will revert once more, and then open it up to general discussion. So it should be a good hour, 2 hour long show. We will, of course, open it up to super chats. Super chats will get preference, but we will generally open it up to comments as well. So with that being said, let's go to those arguing in the affirmative, Atlas Thugged and Tom Foe. 10 minutes starts now, gentlemen.
Okay. So the main reasons why I guess we're for Nick's current strategy with, voting Democrat in 26, it's primarily just to kind of weaken the GOP. Like at this point in time, with everything we've had over the past 10 years, it's pretty obvious that the path the GOP is leading us down is a path that's just a complete betrayal of all the reasons we supported Trump to begin with. The border wall, everything from that to deportations, to the point to where we're losing jobs, we're losing heritage. Everything we're getting replaced And so the main strategy, the reason why we agree with it is because we simply, like I would say, is like, I just don't want Vivek to win. I don't want an Indian to be governor. That's number one. But number two, it's because we need to kind of like gridlock and check the Republicans, because going forward, like all they're going to be doing is just pursuing more, amnesty for the immigrants. We're not getting deportations. We're not getting any of the promises met. So there has to come a point to where we just kind of do something that might be a little, it might be a little bit of like a wild card. It might be a little ambitious, but there has to be some type of radical change in the course we're going. And if we just keep, supporting this, it's going to lead to more, essentially just more struggle down the road. And there's not going to be a way you can kind of just control the decline with all the problems that we have. And this administration, they've not been hiding the fact that they're going to start supporting immigrants more and more. The GOP is going to start shifting their support to, Hispanic voters in the coming future. And that's one of the reasons why in 2028, they're going to be running with like either Marco Rubio or Vance. And if we don't do something now to kind of deter that and to possibly open it up to where there's a primary to where we could get somebody else, we're going to be stuck with one of those two. I personally think it's going to be Rubio, because they're just going to use him as a way to appeal to the Hispanic voters. But I mean, that's what I would say. It's like at this point in time, if we do nothing and if we just go along with what they want us to, we're just going to be left out in the cold even more than we already are.
Yeah. And if I was to add on top of that, I guess maybe to be a bit more specific on some of this, one of the items that I would definitely open up and say one of the items of success would be that we really want to get and try to emulate and mirror the pathway that Donald Trump had to winning and ultimately becoming the president for the 2 terms that he did serve. And so many people might remember during the primaries of like 2015, 2016, how wide open it was. I think it was like 16 different candidates were all, vying to be the Republican nominee at that point. And the only reason it was able to actually get to that point was because the GOP had been weakened and absolutely crushed. And so part of this actually came off the back of the fact that Obama won back-to-back terms. Going into 2012 is when you have the Tea Party kind of, growing up and kind of making themselves vocal, ultimately to rather quickly get absorbed by the GOP once again. But it was in that wide open primary that you had the ability to have insurgents, you had the ability for smaller armies, smaller pushes, smaller demographics to be able to actually affect change in those primaries. And so Donald Trump, taking advantage of that, was one of 16 until he was, one of one. And the only way that you can really get that is by crushing the GOP, is by forcing the GOP to lose. So Tom mentioned it in the beginning as well, this concept of gridlocking the right or the Democrats and the Republicans. If the Democrats more than likely will get the House if we do vote for them in the midterms, and it's looking like that way anyways, even without our involvement. So you gridlock the Congress, make it so that the administration ultimately is kind of stuck, not able to do much. Ultimately, they're not doing much anyways, but it makes it so the Democrats can kind of stick in and force things not to happen. But furthermore from there, it opens up the GOP to getting exposed in more investigations, in oversight committees, in other committees at large that actually also apply pressure on the GOP for other elements, even if it's outside of policy, even if it's some kind of scandal or some other person or some kind of corruption, whether it's Christie, Nome, et cetera, because the kind of end goal going towards 2028 is to weaken Rubio and Vance enough that other primary contenders feel it's a viable chance for them to step in. So we have options on the right wing. But we can't get that if we allow the GOP to maintain its kind of winning stance or its kind of overall prominence through 28, because at that point, ultimately, it will be are you going to vote for Vance or vote for Rubio? And we're still left outside of that. And the overall action of this actually strikes at the heart of the inertia that is the lesser of two evils, which is this concept, and it's a proxy of the fact that we do have a two-party voting system. So it's one or the other. And this presents an option outside of that. It breaks open that taboo of moving away from that. And so I would say that's kind of a start for an opening argument. And I think if successful, it does pave the way for future paths for, breaking down the kind of hegemonic power that the party in power has.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much verbatim. That's like exactly why we're attempting this strategy. And like what Atlas said, I mean, it's kind of going to happen regardless if we're involved or not. There's a better chance if we are involved, but this administration has left like a very bad impression in most normies. Like they don't see this as a winning administration, and most people are just either not going to vote or they're going to vote against Republicans in the midterms and then eventually in the election. And that's like another thing to be said. If we get stuck with Vance and Rubio in 2028, do you really think Vance is going to win? Most people don't like Vance at all. Most people who even support MAGA and Trump don't like Vance. And that's why I'm saying, like, if it's between those two, I guarantee you it's going to be Rubio. And if they use Rubio, it's not going to be to appeal to heritage Americans, white Americans. Like, this is a party that has accepted the idea that an immigrant that becomes an American citizen and gets a green card after 5 seconds has just as much of a birthright or a, an ability to dictate what happens to this country as somebody who has a lineage that's been here for 300 years. Like they already don't even view Americans the same way that most of us do. And that's why I think it will be Rubio, and they'll just keep, slowly pushing towards, favoring Hispanics, favoring Indians. And that's another reason why you want Vivek to lose, because if he wins, it's going to be a signal towards those groups that, hey, you know what, we can keep pushing for more of these anchor babies to win elections, to gain power. And it's just not good. Palantir's not good. The little tech connections are not good with Vance. And then with Rubio, if you get stuck with him, and that's to even say if they'll even win, because there's a chance that enough people are just upset with the way this administration has handled Epstein with immigrations, whether you think they were too hardcore or they weren't hardcore enough. It's like, this isn't a winning strategy altogether.
You have 2 minutes, guys.
Okay. And so we have to attempt to try and do something different. And if we keep going down this way, even if they do win, it's not going to lead to anything better for us. So that's really what this is.
Yeah, and it's going to be getting, Republicans off, or forgive me, it's getting white men off of the Republican plantation. And so you also, and even more specifically to the actual success of what we're looking at, not inside a vacuum or hypothetically, but what we're actually looking at. And one of those pre-existing conditions to take advantage of is the fact that the voter turnout is already miserably low. Even in the previous election, the greatest election of our lifetime still turned out less than half the country. I believe it was somewhere between 48 and 49% of people came out to actually vote for what was considered supposedly, life or death for this country. And not more, the majority of the country didn't even care. On top of that, what we already have happening is you already have the Iran war, you have the betrayal in the Epstein files, you have the betrayal here and there, mass deportations isn't happening. So you already have a kind of suppressed enthusiasm from the voter base going into the midterms. And so when you take advantage of that, and on top of that, take advantage of it in other, low turnout midterm votes,
30 seconds,
where a 5 to 10% suppression via Groyper infiltration can actually really swing it around. And so I would also add on top of that too, burn it all to the ground is much more psychologically galvanizing than the, hold your nose and go vote. And so I think there's a lot of supplemental arguments that actually will aid in the actual strategic favor of putting this forward into motion.
All right, solid start for everybody. We're going to go ahead and get right into the rebuttal from John Ward and Zeb Boykin. Gentlemen, you have 10 minutes.
John, I'm going to go ahead and let you kick it off.
Yeah, I know you're going first. Go ahead.
No, you go for it. You want it?
No, I want to go second. It'll be more emphatic.
Okay, you want to go second? All right. Basically, let me grab this for Josh. It's over here in the corner. There we go. All right. Now we look good. John. Best looking team on this debate, unquestionably.
You're dragging it down a little bit, but I still agree.
But yeah, I mean, that's basically what we're after. They kind of laid out, Nick's position, and we want to establish, our position on why that strategy doesn't work. And then obviously we're going to go into some rebuttals. So without ripping it apart to start off with, the baseline across the board is essentially GOP bad. We need to destroy the GOP, and to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to embolden the people that want to lock us up. Not only want to lock us up, have locked us up. And so this is the very, very premise of all of this, right? So if Nick is advocating voting for Democrats, you telling me Amy Acton is not going to advocate for jailing Republicans, the same Republicans that voted her in under the guise of Groyperism. And so I'm going to keep it kind of short, and I'm going to let John take it over, and then we can fill in some of the work on the back end. But essentially what we're doing is we're taking our enemy. Granted, the GOP bad. I understand that. But we're taking the actual enemy. Both positions are anti-white. They're anti-white. They hate the white man, specifically the Christian white man. We know this. No one's advocating, no one's saying that they aren't. But the difference is that the Democrats have expressed they will, and they already have done and shown that they're going to do exactly what they're going to do if they get power. And so getting them into power intentionally is not the way to go. We can specifically talk about Ohio if we need to, but the idea that voting blue is better than voting red because red bad, we need to destroy red so that we can then take over red, doesn't make any sense when you're not going to be able to vote from the prisons when the blue people put you in them. You can ask Owen Schroyer. You can ask any of the J6 guys. At the end of the day, if we're going to win, we need to be able to maneuver into a winning position, not put ourselves in a bear trap, not break a leg. That's what we need to not do, John.
I don't even think the goal is to win elections. I think that's young man thinking. A lot of your argument is predicated on the idea that any of this shit is real. I don't think the goal is to win elections. It's to win what is kind of homosexually referred to as the culture war. Not my term. I'm going to use it. You win that, the elections will take care of themselves. I think low IQ anti-Semitism is propaganda meant to counteract 00 noticing. Fuente's position is what I would call a play in what in game theory is what's called negative partisanship. And I think that is the main problem for the ruling class, whatever you want to call that. Low satisfaction with democracy, dislike for a party, huge difference, whether it's one or the other, or just a total unwillingness to vote at all. I remember P. Diddy, great dude, stand-up character, once wearing a shirt, vote or die. Vote or die. You're going to die if you don't vote. No, the system will die, which is why its representatives wear those gay shirts. What else did I have here? So when you get negative partisanship against all major parties, which is happening right now, meaning everybody hates the major parties, then you get historically what's called a revolution. I believe Nick Fuentes is designed to move dissenters back into the system, and he's convinced you that he's moving you out of it. The GOP will get exposed by scandal is really fucking gay. That's a gay thing to say. That's called female aggression. We will take down our enemies by telling their friends a bunch of rumors about them, how they're sluts, and then use that exposure from the public square to humiliate them into quitting. No, that's gay. I believe in masculine aggression. Don't really like Dan Bilzerian, but that was kind of the coolest story. I know you guys like what's called aura. Who has more aura than a guy that makes you throw your phone on the couch, takes you in a room, and says, "How are we going to kill Ben Shapiro?" Pretty legit.
I mean, John, this is what was it? GTA 5. If we're running GTA 5, I think Nick would be on board. But in real life, we back down. But I want to hit on the de-escalation, because I've talked about this a lot before, and I've been on this train for a very long time. Me and Josh have even had debates on this specific topic on this channel itself, if you want to check that out. But this idea is to not have revolution. I think it's an idea to just keep kicking the can down the road. It's to not have anything. And he's even expressed this himself. I can't remember if it was on one of his shows or maybe even on Crowder earlier today, but where he's talking about we don't need to be violent. Violence is not the answer. It's never the answer. That's not the words he uses, but that's essentially what he said. But even Harrison Smith is coming out saying that violence is essentially a tool. And me and Josh have done a whole video on this. Violence is a tool. Josh doesn't agree with me because he's a groyper, and Nick told him no violence, so therefore no violence. And so taking shots at Josh, he can't even speak for himself. I apologize. I won't do that again. I won't do that again. But the point stands is that this is massive de-escalation. And at the end of the day, if we're going to win, as John said, voting isn't really the game. I do think we can use it to win. That again, this will be a different tactic than what Nick is advocating for. Voting blue doesn't actually win you the seats. Doesn't even put you in a winning position. Right now, all he's trying to do is with Amy Acton, defer, right? We're just deferring Vivek out of the GOP, but screw Ohio in the meantime. Ohio screwed either way, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? It's just the same game, a different color. And at the end of the day, if we want to change any of this stuff, it's not going to happen through voting. That's just simply the case. I guess the position that they're espousing to some extent is an accelerationist position. And Nick was talking about earlier today on Crowder, where it's a 20 to 40 year plan. We don't have 20 to 40 years. And we obviously don't have 20 to 40 years. Just look at the last 4, last 8, last 12 since the first Trump administration. What all has happened since then, and the massive ramp up from exponential reasons into if Democrats hold the full seat, the full power from 2028 when they win the election there. I don't think Vance Rubio is an issue. I don't even think Republicans can win a national election, a presidential election right now, especially given your boy's term.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I mostly agree. But again, you got to decide is voting rigged or not, number one, before you can have a position on whether or not that will affect anything. My understanding, I watched Fuentes, and I watched Fuentes and Crowder today, and in Nick's own words here, I wrote it down. Boo 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 boo. Voting for Democrats will degrade the support for the establishment, thus opening the door for new candidates. Will create a competitive primary, and somebody, they call him Superman, will rise up. Thank God. I've been waiting for him for a long time. This classic demoralization or demobilization propaganda. QAnon, I don't know how you guys feel about that. In my opinion, very similar thing. I worry we're headed towards a French Revolution where a bunch of grapers will very righteously be excited for a little bit, Robespierre style, and then they'll get their heads cut off, and the people a little bit further seeing than you will step in at the head of your organization, not unlike Turning Point, not unlike happened at Turning Point. But we have a whole lot of time to talk about all of this. Hopefully you appreciate having a little bit of fun with it to up the energy. I do genuinely think that the Fuentes position is gay. It's a gay thing to do, and I don't like that. So that's all I got for the opening.
Well, I would say that it is voting for the Rainbow Party is pretty gay. It is pretty gay. Now, I will also say that I'm not against voting for the Democrats for the sake of being Democrats. I don't think party necessarily matters. I think the person matters. It's just really easy to take a look at someone that is running Democrat and know if they're actually Democrat or if they're not actually Democrat. I've advocated for in the past that we should run nationalists on the blue side. This is I think this is a winning position. This is another tactic that could be used that hasn't been used. Especially in the South to an extent. We could run Dixiecrats. Bring back the 80s, man. Bring back some blue dog Democrats. I'll vote blue. That's not the issue in itself. And so beyond that, I think the specific tactic, as which is the debate today, is the issue in itself, where we're just voting Democrat because screw the GOP, vote blue no matter who. We've done this before. We've clowned on them for years. This is nothing new. It's the same thing repackaged. Instead of getting separate Q, vote blue, and everything else, it's all packaged into one, and it's called Nick Fuentes America Last.
All right, that was a good opening statement for the retards. No,
Bias? Somebody's biased?
no, I'm kidding. I am not. Hey, I'm not channeling my inner black female judge today. We are being unbiased, or at least I'm being unbiased today as much as I can. But with that being said, I am going to throw it back on to Atlas, Thugged, and Tom Foe. You guys have 3 hours. Proceed.
You want to go,
3
Tom?
hours. Well, I would just say it's kind of like, so John, you're saying like voting altogether doesn't matter. And then Zeb saying, well, you could vote for a Democrat if you knew that he was a nationalist and then it would work. And so does that mean you think voting does work at that point? I mean, it's like, I don't know. You have to try and do something. And just like talking about how there has to be a revolution or there has to be violence, it's like, what's the violence going to get you? Is it going to get you the entire country? Are you going to be able to do that to
You
take
are
over the
familiar
entire
with how
country?
this country was formed, right?
Yeah, but like you're not talking about Texas or Florida or California if you did it. You're not going to be able to take over Alaska if you started some violent revolution. You're not like the states that you could get if you
Hey
tried
guys,
to do that.
let's keep the crosstalk to a minimum. Tom, don't pose any questions, and everyone else don't answer them. Just keep it to statements for these opening remarks or responses.
My bad. My bad.
Yeah, that's
But I mean-
totally Tom's bad. Tom, I can't believe you did that. Go ahead.
My bad, bro. All right. Well, I mean, I would just say it's like, yeah, like if you don't think voting matters at all, then, you know, none of this is going to work. But if you do, and if you think there's a way you could strategize a vote, even if it's just in certain areas, then I think that's something we should like go after. And it doesn't mean we want Democrats in every single place. It's really just Ohio. Like that's really the main goal. And it is to stop Vivek. That's been like the main game plan since the year started, is just to make sure Vivek doesn't win, because that does signal, whether you want to admit it or not, that it is possible for an anchor baby who came here, who made all of his money in the pharmaceutical industry by scamming Americans and fucking over old people, and that's how he made his money, and he forces himself into politics, and he's best friends with the vice president, and the vice president names his kid after him. It's like, I wouldn't want that person, at the very least, to have any springboard into politics going forward. Even if none of it really truly matters, like just fuck that guy.
Yeah, well, let me pose this. I'll say this at the beginning. You guys are glowing so much that I had to turn my brightness down on my monitor. The second thing I would say is, yeah, Tom's correct. There's extreme inconsistency among your positions, right? You know, I would imagine if the concept was if there was no political solution, you would actually probably not care about whatever political strategy was being tried, because I would imagine you would see it as a nonsensical. To what end? It would all meet to the same singular point. So why even bother caring about other political strategy? And I think you did raise a good point. Ward did, about the voting system and the integrity of such. I think that's a good kind of thing that could be explored. Although I would say that that's true of all systems. I think the majority of systems, especially in today's day and age, in the digital age, there's exploitation both left, right, front, and center. But I think still overall, I think there's still, while trust remains in the voting system, I think there's still some level of it having meaning, if you will. Beyond that, though, I would say the push for violence is one thing. It's extremely concerning for me, because the whole entire point of why we're even entertaining this is to circumvent violent revolution, right? The end goal is not to have or encourage violent revolution. We're actually trying to actively not have that occur. And for a couple of reasons. I think the first primary reason would be that I think when you say that, it comes with an assumption that your side will win. There's an assumption that if we just have the revolution, we win in the end. And it's like, I don't really think that's how it works, especially not in an era where Palantir is like a year or two away from having complete control of all the systems and surveillance. And so I think we already have this this element that is already hard to collectivize. And I think if you add in the element of collectivizing for violence, it's going to set up people for failure. Hence why I said the glowing element in the beginning. Beyond that, I would say in the geopolitical, it's irrespective of the geopolitical. Like Tom brought up Alaska, but what does happen if you encourage a violent revolution and all of a sudden the government is now vacant? I mean, now you've opened it up, especially in a very turbulent period. I mean, how many missile defense systems do we have left? Like none. And what would that open it up to? China, Russia, other countries that are eyeing and obviously keeping their eyes on the ball of what they would have to gain from a weakened federal of the United States of America. This is why I'm actually very heavily against the balkanization. And I think especially now in this period of history, the United States has probably never been in a weaker position. I mean, we've outsourced essentially all of our manufacturing overseas. You add in the fact that like 80+% of our prescription drugs comes from China. I mean, what would that mean if we were to lose a strong federal head? It would put America in an extremely weak position. And who's to say it wouldn't require another country to come in and step in and ultimately kind of mend it to bring America back to some level. And I would say, though, too, the concerning part, though, to go back to the inconsistency of the principles is why I don't understand how you can, on one hand, hold this idea of starting a violent revolution. It's like the only way, violence is a tool, we need to use it. But at the same time, also encourage this concept of pushing for blue dog Democrats. I don't think that those two things are consistent. One has to be true and the other not. And so I would ask if I could get a stronger, maybe more specific answer on what that concept would be. But Tom is also right too, especially on, if we're eyeing in directly on what the Vivek versus Amy Acton race is, the primary push, the primary want out of that race is Vivek to lose. And since it was a winnable race, but Casey Putsch decided he didn't want to even support himself, you have the next step is now Amy Acton, because what we're not accepting is Vivek to be the governor of Ohio. And specifically because I think it does present a lot more long-term damage with cementing Vivek's position, for one, at the national level, and second to that, it kind of also allows a stronger channel for the GOP, Republicans, and whoever else to redefine what it actually means to be an American. In Vivek's world, you can walk in and be handed a piece of paper, and now you're an American. As long as you believe in some random, list of ideals, you're an American. And I refuse that. And what I also noticed too, just to kind of finalize this and throw back to Tom, what I noticed is a very reductive retelling of our position. The position is not to just vote Democrats to screw the GOP, although that is a part of it. That's like the primary. That's what initiated it. The end goal is to actually induce a ability or a chance, a non-zero chance of there being a nationalist candidate running under the Republican banner in 28. But that wasn't engaged with at all in your opening remarks. And I think it is largely, again, reductive to not engage with what the end goal is. It's not just why we're doing it. It's also what we could get from doing it. And I think the lack of you guys engaging with that, I think, was disheartening to say the least. But back to you, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It was a little confusing, but it's just if we don't try at least to have somebody that could be in a position to gain any type of influence or power that actually represents us on like one hand, if we don't even attempt to do that, it's already game over. Because the next 4 years and the 4 years after that, the GOP, which is supposed to be the side that represents us, they're going to be representing us less and less every election because we are becoming a minority in our own country. And we have all these immigrants that are coming here. They don't want them to leave. They're not kicking them out. They're going to start appealing to them. We're already seeing it. It's already happening. So there has to be some attempt. There has to be something you try. And that is the one like radical, I guess you can say, strategy that needs to be attempted sooner than later. Because the more and more we wait on this, the less people we have. The less people we have here, the less unity we have. And that's another reason why I don't really like the idea of like violence and revolution, is because we're so spread out throughout the country. I would imagine like you guys don't live in the same state I do. And I mean, it's like, depending on most states, whites are already a minority in a majority of them. You're not going to have like this unifying revolution with violence that you can like wage to where you're going to win everything. If anything, all you're going to do is you're going to strike at the system And even if you beat, like, yeah, you can leave the system weaker, but now like all these neighboring states with all these immigrants and minorities, you're giving them a reason to hate you and to want to fight back. You think the Mexicans that like the cartels that live here, you think they're not going to try and stop you? You think the whites that have like white guilt aren't going to join up with the Mexicans? You think the whites that, you know, don't have white guilt but don't really see race, they
1
believe
minute.
the melting pot, they believe all the melting pot bullshit. You don't think they're going to join up against you either? Like, I don't think the numbers are there to have like an actual unified revolution that works in your favor. And I think you're just kind of like dooming whatever coalition or group you're a part of to just exist in like a third world shithole. And I mean, maybe we get that either way, but I don't think violence prevents that. I think it makes it worse. I think a lot of people are just going to needlessly die. And as a Christian, I'm opposed to that. And I don't think it would be winnable. And I mean, it's.
Well, that is our time for those arguing in the affirmative. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to John and Zeb. They are going to be doing a final 10 minutes of their rebut to Tom and Atlas's rebuttal, and then we will be opening it up to a general conversation. So, gentlemen, proceed.
Yeah, I can clear a few of those things up for you immediately. The inconsistency in our team's argument is due to the fact that Zeb and I are different people, and we don't agree.
John,
on
don't
that
say
fact.
that.
Zeb is a retarded person who believes that the voting system is real. You go vote, and it's like, sure, that guy, yeah, we're gonna mark that down for you. So
Let me clear that up for you. Let me clear that up real quick, because granted, I agree it wasn't clear. Let me be specific. When I say we can vote for Democrat and nationalists, this is a blue dog Democrats, Dixiecrats, whatever you want to call them. This is more of a local aspect. Maybe it breaches into a governorship. Maybe it breaches into a statewide race. But this is more on a local relationship. I don't think, regardless, across the board, you have any say-so in a national election. And most states, you don't have any say-so. So to John's point, voting doesn't matter once you hit a certain level. Specifically, it's kind of respect to the lobby and the money behind that. But just to clear that up, this is it's a categorical distinction to an extent, right? The local versus the state and national. Maybe
I'm saying this, you two guys on the other end here, to be clear, and if you like don't know me that well, I'm not always being completely serious. For the sake of having some fun with this, so please don't take anything I say personally. I don't think, now Atlas called us out for glowing, which is a fair call out. I don't advocate for this extreme violent bloodbath revolution, but I figured we'd have some time to talk about this, and I'd get a little more serious as the time went on. One thing I completely agree with you guys on is Vivek, or whatever you fucking say his name. I agree. He cannot win in Ohio. He cannot win. I don't totally disagree with the Amy Acton thing. That is an extremely anomalous election that it's Vivek in there. And so, again, I figured we'd talk a little bit more about the primary between Putsch. That's where I kind of disagree, I think, with Nick. But I agree with you. No, yeah, absolutely not in any way.
Let me tackle Vivek before we kick to Casey. Vivek's not going anywhere. This idea that if Casey doesn't win in Ohio, or that Vivek doesn't win the Ohio governorship, that he's just gonna disappear into the wind. The dude's sitting on billions of dollars of scammed money from Americans. I mean, this idea that Vivek is going to go away. He's a presidential candidate. He's not just going to disappear. Was he going to go back to Canada?
Holy shit, man! It's not just him. To be clear, it's integrated into a lot of other really powerful people are making money off his companies. You got to keep that in mind. That's why he's able to run for governor of Ohio. It's not his own charisma and genius statements he's throwing out around Christmas. Sorry, go ahead.
So where's the so you think he's just going to disappear?
Part of me thinks he's being openly mocked by the administration, that he was kicked out of Doge. He was all, if you and I can tell, if we all four of us can tell how full of shit he is, I'm inclined to believe that people in the administration also know he's full of shit. And it seems kind of like they kicked him out and like, hey, why don't you run for governor of Ohio? knowing that he wasn't going to win. And I kind of hope that's what happens, but that's making a lot of assumptions. William of Ockham would not be a fan of that theory. So,
Okay,
you
Vivek,
got
want to
something?
go?
Yeah.
No, we're
So,
done. Vivek.
I just want to be clear. I completely agree. I think though what you're doing by following Nick is the fallacy of the excluded middle, which is to say, is if our guy sucks, then the only other alternative is this fucking Democrat Amy Acton, and that's where I disagree with the strategy in the primary. Why not vote Putsch? And I'll say this too: is Putsch is a really smart guy. He had no chance of winning, and he knew it. The primary, I mean. All this discourse on X of disgruntled former volunteers, which even I was initially inclined to believe, and then you read about it and you find out it's a volunteer who's pissed off. I don't know if you guys have ever been part of an election. I have. It is exactly like that. There's 5 billion people that come in that all have these great ideas. They're literally retarded. You're like, you know what? We'll see what we can do. And then you never call them back because they're retarded. And then you lose and they go out and be like, man, we would have won if you would have just listened to me. If we would have just ran ponies through downtown fucking Cleveland with dildos out on their heads like unicorns, we would have fucking won. I'm sure of it. Yeah, so that really does happen. The craziest people you can possibly imagine come out, especially for those kind of elections. I don't see the harm, though, and I don't understand Nick's reaction after Putsch lost. And I think Putsch did exactly his job. He used the little bit of limelight he was given, which was not much, to advance the culture. And he shit on Vivek in some of the most incredible ways I've ever fucking seen, and put those thoughts out there as a mainstream candidate and into people's minds. And that's what it's about to me. The language that we use are forms of code and programming, and you put them into people's heads. And, you got to repeatedly do that until they stick. Bilzerian's kind of a different animal, and I'm sure we'll get to him. But anyway, I think it was kind of, the argument is, well, Putsch was going to lose, and if you back a losing horse, it makes you look bad. I don't think we live in those times anymore. I think people
John,
want something.
let me tack on to that.
Oh.
Because that was the initial position to an extent, maybe not the actual initial position. It was, Casey's going to win. We don't need to have this. Basically, he has no chance. So why back him? Why send our efforts towards that? But then we go and back Fishback, which is probably on par to where Casey was, and then we have Baker running against Randy Fine, which is, he hasn't endorsed yet, but it's probably going to be even less than what Casey's running. I mean, Baker polled at not even polled, but he lost in a special election at 2%. And so this is what we're dealing with. It's like, let's get a little consistency here and stop lying to me. I think that would be a good place to start. Do you want to finish on that? Because we can take on another topic real quick.
Well, I just wanted to try to actually address their points here. I'm trying to take this seriously, and I think they're bringing up some good points.
You can go off of this one too. This will be quick. The idea that we're glowing because maybe it does sound like I'm advocating violence. I'm not. I think it's inevitable, and because of that, I would rather get it over than to pass it on to my kids. It's going to be bad, very, very bad, regardless of if it happens now, tomorrow, a year, 15 years, 20 years, 40 years. It's going to be bad, and I would rather my kids not have to live through it. Beyond that, I think the de-escalation effort is more of a fed-up than anything. The de-escalation effort is to retain power within the structure that we refer to as the uniparty. It assumes that, and this kind of boils down to the voting aspect too. It's like you assume that they care which one wins. Like they're the same,
They're
but
the
different.
same people, mostly the same. But yes, I agree.
And so the puppet doesn't matter. It's still the same person pulling the strings. And so at the end of the day, whichever button you mash, whether that's a red one or a blue one or yellow or green or whatever color that third party
2 minutes.
Whatever third party wants to run.
The
At the end
Ohio
of the day,
election ended after the Republican primary. The winners have already won it. Vivek or Amy Acton, they won.
Yep.
The election was Putsch versus Vivek.
And so the basis is the de-escalation position is for the feds to retain power. You're glowing. I'm not.
Well, and it's just quickly again, they're desperately trying to feed people back into the system that vote for the system that perpetuate the system, because it's quite a profitable little farm they're running, and we are the animals. It's again using these terms, blanket statements, the uniparty. It's mostly true shortcuts and heuristics, and to communicate our understanding of the world. But again, we've seen this before. I'd encourage you to keep in mind that Zeb and I have no interest and would profit in no way whatsoever from lying to you guys
1 minute.
or fucking with you in some way or anything like that. And I want to keep, and I know that's true of you for us as well. So I know you believe what you're saying. We have seen this before. This kind of demobilization happens in war too. You put out propaganda, the army's amassing, and right in the perfect spot where you want to do something, so you try to put out some propaganda to get them to go somewhere else. I feel like that's what's happening. Just quickly, running a nationalist candidate, we're going to lose the chance. Trump was a nationalist candidate in 2016, 10 years ago, and he won. It's time. I think it's soon enough. I don't think we need to wait.
But mean tweets, John. But mean tweets. I think Casey embodied a lot of that. But
real
quick before Josh cuts me off.
Your minorities and people with white guilt hating us? I don't care is my answer to that. I don't care about any of that.
10 seconds, Zeb.
10 seconds. We talk about unified revolution. We're not going to have the numbers to have a revolution. I would argue that you don't even have the numbers to gather a voting bloc to make a difference. So, same.
Alrighty then. That was good. You sound like a car salesman. All right. Well, that was the end of our timed back and forth. Now we're going to have a full-blown back and forth where the candidates on both sides can crosstalk. They can examine each other. They can analyze each other's arguments a little bit more forwardly and up front. So, gentlemen, I'm going to throw it to all four of you, but Tom and Atlas, since you guys didn't get to speak last, I'll let you guys kind of either make a statement or throw the first question out.
I mean, where to start? Content drought is over. That's a lot to unpack there. And no, I guess the first thing I would lead with is no, I view it the complete opposite as you. What you call, Nick, is a demoralizing campaign. I actually view that your perspective of violence being inevitable actually demoralizing, ultimately putting in a position of demoralizing in its most true sense, which is, get rid of your morals because the only thing important is the upcoming violence. I think that what you guys are pushing is the black pill, this concept that there is nothing you can do but wait for the inevitable. Or ultimately accelerate it so it happens in your lifetime, I think is what Zeb had said, so it doesn't happen to his kids, which I understand what that viewpoint. But I think overall, to say that our position is the black pill or is the demoralizing position, I think is the complete opposite. And again, I'll go back to what I said in the opening argument, right? The psychological element that is galvanizing about burn it all down is much more of a riveting argument for a young man to go vote for than it is to hold your nose and go vote for the brown guy, and I don't even think anyone's pro-Vivek here. But again, I would say that's probably the first thing that comes to mind with what you guys had just said.
Let's take these one at a time. Maybe not one at a time, but
I think we can agree that none of us like Vivek, and I like voting for Amy Acton in Ohio is the one thing that I don't know I really would fault you guys for. I don't know that I'd say why not just not vote at this. Why not just not vote? How about that?
Because that's demoralizing. That's also, again, the demoralizing element. Don't do anything. There's nothing you can do. Somebody's got to win.
I'm out.
And I mean, to be fair, it's like Nick has also said it would be better if you just didn't vote. If you weren't going to vote Amy, it would be better if you just didn't vote. Because as long as you're not voting Vivek, that's like the point. That's like the main goal. So, I mean, yeah, Ohio is a specific case. And we all don't like Vivek, but I'm still like a little confused. If you don't think any young American man should participate in the system at all, what do you think they should be doing?
Making a new system.
You were telling them it's like, huh?
Making a new system.
How? And where?
Looking at the history of things that have worked in the country and emulating them here.
But like, you're like assuming that that's like possible in the
It is.
system
It's
that we
clearly
exist in
possible.
today.
It fucking worked already.
All the systems we have are new systems is essentially what John's getting at. There is no system that was
There's never going to
essentially
be
taken over from the inside.
I think you're in a childlike nostalgia, and we have it too. Trust me. I'd love to like go back in time and recreate the 90s in some way, which is, of course, looking at it with rose-colored glasses. It was not great in a lot of ways too. It's gone, man. We're going forward through time radially in one direction. All you can do is make something new with the random shit that hits you in the face the moment you're born. The shit was all going on well before Nick Fuentes was born. So it's not like it just was, and I'm not really that interested in like going through a bunch of historical dates and stuff. We can, I mean, if you want to, but trust me, this has been going on for thousands of years. I've mentioned on my channel, there's a bazillion-year-old poem, I think 1500s, called Porcus Porcorum, the Pig War, that's all about the young pigs and the old pigs and this battle between and that's where Animal Farm came from, the pigs and shit. George Orwell read this old Latin poem. It's a very, very old idea. And what we see, I think, again, we don't know. I'm not in Nick Fuentes' head. I'll admit that. But what we see is this classic operation that has happened many times before, directed at young men that are starting to be frustrated with the system righteously. They're correct. This all seems fucked, and it was fucked before I was born, and that's not fair. You're right. Atlas said violence being inevitable is demoralizing. For a while, but it's like that is the natural state of things when you look at history in aggregate and zoom out. It's just shit tons of violence with these little blips of stability where women get to vote, and then you go back to violence at that point.
The concept is not that violence is like somehow inescapable. The idea is like very specifically in that context of a revolution occurring with violence in this country being inevitable. Obviously, things are going to happen over time. I mean, like there could be some kind of another J6 down the road that may occur, something along those elements. Then things happen naturally.
But I'm not sure you can point to a single country on the modern map that has, like, what, Hungary has been around for maybe 1,000 years. The shit does not stay the same.
Right. But a lot of times it does transfer. It becomes something different, right? When you look at, some empires become republics, some republics become empires. In addition to that, I think if we're gonna invoke the historical, we need to invoke the historical statistics of how many revolutions are successful versus unsuccessful. And historically, the majority of revolutions, if you include slave revolts, do not go as planned. They ultimately end up either leaving a entire class vacant because of the extreme violence, or again, it turns into some third-party group taking advantage of the situation and ultimately assuming power. That's my kind of main problem, is the amount of assumptions inside of the violent revolution.
Well, see, I think again, you make the assumption as someone who has something to lose that you should care about that. That's precisely what makes it the spiritually correct thing to do, is how much is at stake. And again, to be clear, is we're not saying go pick up a double-sided fucking battle axe and a wooden shield and go fucking launch yourself off, the top of a building in DC. They're just saying that to be funny. This idea that violence bad, masculine energy bad, use relational aggression, use character, that's all woman shit. It just really is. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not personally insulting anybody, but
it seems
that
like
doesn't work. That I know doesn't work.
It seems like the sticking point here is the question of is there a political solution, or is violence inevitable, or is there any anything on the other end of the violence, or revolution, or whatever you want to call it? I guess I would pose the question, and I'm gonna tag on to the back of this. What is the political solution down the road? If we can't get mass deportations now, let's get 20 years of immigrants in here. It's we need to recognize, and even Charlie Kirk said this before he was assassinated. No, just kidding. Before he was assassinated, we are being invaded. Not only are we being invaded, we are invaded. Americans are a minority in our country, and so I'm not even advocating overthrowing the government. I'm just saying that the violence is coming. I mean, just look at the summer of love, like mostly peaceful. Look at basically hundreds and hundreds of Erna Zaruskas across the board. It's like we're being picked off as whites inside of America, as Americans inside of America. So eventually it's not me being wishful in that there is a violent revolution coming. It's not me being wishful at all. I'm not even advocating for it. I just know that there's an inevitability, and I think the faster we get there, the better off we are. Playing this waiting game only puts us in a worse position, especially when we put people like Randy Fine or people like Amy Acton, or we can go on down the list. Anyone that is opposing the GOP or accelerating the GOP's demise is only going to worsen our position when anything happens.
I get what you guys are saying, and I'm not doubting like any of the historical context of like revolutions. I'm just saying, as like a Gen Z man myself, as like a younger guy, and I know a lot of other people that are younger than me, I don't feel convinced that what you guys are saying is like the right course of action for young men in this country. I don't think we're at a point anymore to where you could have a violent revolution and white Americans would win. Like, I don't think you guys have the unity or the numbers to do anything meaningful other than just like lose at this point.
And
like,
you don't have the meaningful
like you said,
numbers
the barbarians are already
to
here.
vote.
And you're right. Like, they're already inside the gates. The gates are closed. They're not even coming in. There's already 100 million here. It's like we're displaced all throughout the country. So like, I'm still confused. You're saying, not to do this, this wild card, ambitious, I guess you could say, strategy to gain power on any level with voting Democrat, weakening the GOP, but also at the same time, we have to work towards a revolution, or there's a coming revolution. Like, what would you be telling a younger guy to do in this situation? Just don't vote. Don't get involved. Don't try anything. Just wait. And then when the time's right, we'll all go, like, we'll summon you.
I'll
Like,
answer that.
You're going to give me like
And
a beep or
John may
something?
differ on this. My position is
Like, that's
to not tell you to eat McDonald's and don't eat fruit and don't eat an ancestral diet and don't go to the gym. I would tell you to have a family, have kids, act as if there is no insane revolution. The end of the world is not coming, right? It's going to be a blip at the end of the day to an extent. But I would say that yeah, go to the gym. Put yourself in a better position. Train, whether that's with hand-to-hand combat or guns. Be a man. Go, dude. If you want to build a car and be a mechanic, do something like that. We have to put ourselves in a better position, whether that's making money or climbing the ladder. And I would even say climbing the ladder within the political sphere too. I don't advocate against that at all.
Yeah.
This is Nick's argument. To be elite human capital, you're proposing everything that he says. And even on lesser extents, right? Even if you don't want to go for the political ladder, like you said, being a pillar inside of your community. These are the same pushes from Nick. He proposes the same things, just
Like,
not with the end goal in mind being like, so you can be ready for war.
literally, like, right after Charlie Kirk got assassinated and Nick did his stream, that was like what he said. He said, you need to become a Swiss Army knife. You need to train. You need to prepare. He said that directly. And I remember because I watched it. And it's like you're saying like stuff that like that's already common, is like become better, gain more resources. This is something they're already doing.
Yeah, because it makes sense, because it's the right thing.
Different.
I have a slightly different answer, I guess. Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
But just real quick on that stream after Charlie Kirk, it was extremely de-escalatory. And the idea that the left is just going to not keep killing people, like let's just grant, I don't, but let's just grant.
We don't think.
Well, let's just grant that Tyler Robinson did it.
We should posit this right here, because I want to know what you think Nick should have said in Charlie Kirk's eulogy.
Wait,
Nick disavowed violence.
I feel like I have a response to what, and I think it's a great question, is what would you tell a guy younger to yourself to do? Because I'm in this boat too. I don't want to speak for Zeb, but I started YouTubing 10 years ago because like nobody was doing what I thought needed to be done. And I imagine that's the impetus behind why you guys are doing what you're doing. I can tell you care. I know the Groypers are all any form of sincerity gets laughed at, which is something you've been taught to feel that way. Sincerity between adult straight men is a glorious thing. It is a warrior spirit that's been taken from us. So keep in mind too, you use the language of violence and killing people, and it's all fun and good, talking like an action movie and shit. You know, it's not what I'm saying. It's a mentality, and the way you feel like there's absolutely no hope at all. Like, what do I do? Is a great question. And to some degree, what Zeb is saying and what everybody else says is good advice, but it's not like actionable. It's not a step-by-step plan. Well, first thing is no one's going to fucking give you a step-by-step plan, to be clear. But the general idea is everyone tries to take over the world backwards. They start going to the big elections in Ohio and blah, blah. You start with yourself and you be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Stop fucking drinking. Stop doing drugs. Don't smoke. Exercise all of that. This idea, become the best version of yourself you can be. But to become some kind of elite human capital is bullshit. The Full Metal Jacket, the movie, touched upon this. Yes, it's a pop culture reference, but just because of the distinction Stanley Kubrick made. The military doesn't want machines. It wants killers. Everybody's being trained to be a machine and not be a killer. I don't want people to be perfect elite human capital. I want to be wholly and truly their animal selves. And that's where the idea of freedom and individuality come from. I'm not a good person. I'm a horrible person. But I believe in the idea bigger and outside of myself of a free place, and a place you can pursue that. So Tom, you're 100% right when you said we're all spread out. I've been wrestling with that problem forever. I believe we need to get in the same physical place. How do we do that? You got to find somebody with a lot of land or money or pool it together somehow. You got to get your ass up and take this giant risk like stepping on a boat in Ireland or Germany or wherever and sailing to New York hundreds of years ago. That is our spirit, I believe. I think you got to throw away this idea of we could lose because, yeah, that's always there in anything you ever do. You just got to start not caring. And guessing your age, but about your age, I would have said probably the same things. This isn't some like emotional, violent outburst because we have no chance left. It's what I truly believe is the only way forward, is to remember that we're not machines and that this isn't going to be assembled like some sort of machine code. You look at the history of the American Revolution, how many different weird ways it could have gone wrong, how many lucky things that happened that let it go right. It was not a bygone conclusion. We almost lost a bunch of times. We had to go back again, right, and do it again in the 1800s. And we're still doing it now. And now it's not just Britain fucking with us, it's China and everybody else too. It's worse than ever.
Right. Well, I think that actually aids.
Could I just
go
respond
ahead.
to that? So if I got this right, it's to not pursue becoming elite human capital. So don't pursue that at all, but still like quit drugs, get healthy, get in shape. And then we all move to the same neighborhood.
No, yeah. So it's not, I would try to be the best version of yourself you can be by all means, but you ain't going to make it is what I'm saying. You are going to find some version of yourself that's your adult you. And in my opinion, that should include a capability to be extremely violent because you're fucking pissed off because violence has been done to you and because you were born a slave without doing anything wrong.
Okay.
So I think now, you should be angry.
So, yeah, I mean, I am. But now, let's say I'm a young white man and it's like I hear you say that and I don't live in the state that all the white people are moving to, and I just don't want to do that because I have family and like responsibilities somewhere else, and I'm not going to just uproot myself and abandon them to go there. So what then? Do I just not pursue anything better? Do I not vote?
Yeah,
do you not? Because that's the problem is you guys are saying there's no step-by-step plan. It's like, we need to just do this. We need to all move here. We need to just focus on working out. And it's yeah, that's great. But it's like, first of all, not everyone's going to do that. You can't convince everybody, even people who agree with you. You can't convince all of them to even like commit to that plan.
I mean, I would
How's
say
that any different than like when y'all say that what Nick's trying to do has no plan and there's no rhyme or reason? It's like I could say the same thing about what you guys are doing, but at least with Nick, there's like a strategy that's laid out that at least resonates with me. You know, like that's kind of like the problem. It's like a little confusing with what you guys are saying. It's just very
well said. I
vague.
would. It's well said. I would say you answered your own question. Is that you're choosing short-term comforts over at risking long-term success. Trust me too. Is like I'd much rather be doing some day job without having to think. But this leads to you having kids that have some day job and have to think even a little bit less, and they have kids and they have day jobs and they have to think a little bit less. Human beings were not meant to be part of this system that exists now. You're not supposed to fucking get up and go to some hourly job. You're not supposed to be paying all these fucking bills and insurance and shit like that. Now, I know you're going to say, like, well, we can't do that overnight. I get that. But before anything else, the most fundamental thing to changing the system we're in is remembering that we're fucking human beings. And this is bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. Now, a lot of people in the American Revolution made the choice that you're making to stay with their friends and family and sit. The guys that made it happen, most of them's names you've never heard. Most of them started off really rich and ended up broke and destitute and died. Like for all the George Washingtons and John Adams, there was 20 other dudes who did just as much, whose names you don't know, because they put it all on the line and they personally lost, but because of them, we have a chance still now. And I get that not everybody wants to be one of those people. I get that.
And if I can, I want to tie that in. Trying to cut John off, going a little long. He likes to ramble. I'm just kidding. It's good. It's good information, and I largely agree with all of it. But to kind of tie that in, right? John's talking about this short term loss, right? This is kind of the case we made with Casey, right? It's a loss that moves the needle. I think even the animosity or the Fed jacketing, whatever, with across the board, the low IQ, anti-Semitism accusation, everything with Dan Bilzerian, even just Dan Bilzerian running against Randy Fine is going to move the needle in a way. It is. He's probably going to lose more than likely. What's the name? Aaron Baker's going to lose. Fishback's going to lose. All these people are going to lose. It's just the nature of the system. But at least it moves the needle in a direction so that we, if there is some possibility of, and I would again pose the question of what is the political solution? Like what is the end game? What is the win con for the political solution? At least pushing these guys moves the needle in the direction, just like even with JD Vance in 2020 running with Donald Trump, the rhetoric at least moved the needle in a nationalistic direction. Now we're probably not going to get that. 2024. So we're probably not going to get that in 28 with Rubio and Vance, but at least, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, all of these guys that were very nationalistic on the at least right after the election, maybe the first 2-3 months, it moved the needle when we go to what we call the cultural war, as John mentioned earlier. And I would just like to know what even the possibility of a political solution is. Like, what is the win con? How do you win?
The win condition is pretty simple, is that the country doesn't collapse, right? The country doesn't collapse while also being realigned to a position of America first. I like to think back to the speech from Joel Webbin, which was the 4 pillars. You have Christian nationalism, you have patriarchy, you have, serving American interests. There's a 4th one. I always generally forget that one, but largely just pushing and getting these ideals back into the Overton window, or not even into the Overton window, it's overused, but back into the actual system. And we've seen, despite even how disgustingly scammy the MAGA movement has become, the Overton window ultimately moved to the right, even with losses inside of it. So you look at where we are today compared to where we were 10 years ago. I mean, none of this conversation would have been allowed on YouTube, let alone like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, if that. So there's obviously positives that come with that, even with the skin suiting that occurred. But the win condition is that we get our country back. I mean, I think when you look at America First United, I think and everything that's came back from that, and since they can't have America First, what is their tagline now? Their tagline is now "Take America Back." That is their win condition. I believe that's an account that you follow from them. And so, what I would pose there is, I think there's also another element that I think is being heavily skipped over by both of you, which is, and I'll reference what John just said to Tom Foe. John brings up this, you got to stop thinking that you could lose. Well, it's not like this. It's like we're at a 50-50 odds, or that we even know what the odds are. I think you could ask anybody, and the odds would be ever in the favor of the centralized authority that has everything that we ultimately don't. And I always like to bring up the Walmart example. And this isn't meant to be offensive by any means, but I always think of, when we talk about revolution, I think of the men I see in the Walmarts that are near me when I'm going out and shopping. And I'm telling you, for the life of me, I cannot be convinced at all that there is a spirit of revolution among the men in this country, the ones that I see, at least not in any kind of meaningful number. And so when I see that, and I see it's kind of being glossed over like could lose, I mean, you're not only are you entertaining the idea of like just destroying America, you're entertaining the idea of just permanently destroying America, which is to say it doesn't even fall apart and become like some lessened republic or balkanize, but actively encouraging some kind of conflict that would open itself up to the geopolitical. That's where I'm like heavily against that, right? Instead of the federal and the geopolitical, because these actors are going to move. And I think it can't be missed just how much like America's been involved in war with Ukraine for how many years now? Now we have the Iran war. Lord knows how long that's going to go on. And it's being reported not like a couple weeks ago, you have JD Vance not trying to step on toes because he wants to know like actually how many missile defense systems America has left. There's also other elements in there. And so if you encourage some kind of conflict at a bad point too, even if it wasn't a bad point, it opens itself up for extreme vulnerabilities. And I think when you look at that, it's not a could lose. You even look at the American Revolution. It was unthinkable, even what they did in the American Revolution, even the small percentage chance they had going against the largest navy in the entire world. It was a miracle it happened then with men who could toss us around like it was nothing, like on a random Tuesday. So you compare that in the digital age with the surveillance system, with the weakened quality of men, I really cannot see anything happening in that way. And to add on a point there too, I'm glad you invoked the founding fathers, because what happened to a lot of them? Their families turned on them. Their families betrayed them. You have brothers turning in sisters. You have sisters turning in brothers. You have wives going and telling the loyalists what their husbands are doing. Even then, because there's an extreme element of inertia for people to not invoke extreme violence or radical kind of, revolution. So there's many things that work against it. And I think, again, I'll post it for like the third time. There's way too many assumptions inside of that kind of push.
Yeah, and if I could like tag onto that, because
let me grab Atlas real quick.
Well, hold
Tom.
on. Let Tom hadn't spoken in a while. Let Tom go.
Okay, because John said that like when I was talking, I had this like a spirit of, oh, we'll lose. I don't have that. I just don't think it would work if we did things the way you're proposing. Because it's like, Atlas is saying he's walking around the city. He doesn't see the spirit, the fight in America. I don't see that either. I don't see that in my generation. I definitely don't see that in Gen Alpha. They're going to be more autistic than ever. It's like you're not going to get that. And it seems like you're kind of proposing like a more of like return to the land type of solution where we build like an institution somewhere that's safe. But all that's going to do is put a target on everyone's back. You still need people with power to protect you. You still need that. So I don't have like this spirit of that, like all hope is lost. I just think that we don't have to do things that way. And I don't think it has to lead to complete collapse. Like, I don't want that to happen because I know a lot of people would die. And it's not that I'm afraid of being uncomfortable. I mean, like, I'm not afraid of that at all. It's like you guys were talking about earlier, how if we vote for Democrats, they're going to start throwing us in prison for 4 years. And what's that going to feel like? I bet that would feel uncomfortable, right? I'm not afraid of prosecution or like of any of these people. But what's it going to look like if you abandon all institutions entirely and you just move into the middle of nowhere? You think they're not going to try and throw you in prison? You think when all the Indians that come over here and get elected on city councils and, cut deals with governors and eventually become, the president, You think they're not going to turn around and say, hey, look at all these white people over in this state. They all moved there. They're trying to build up some institution and spark a spirit of revolution. Let's do something about that. You don't think they're going to have any motives to, see, that's like the thing. It's like, it's a little confusing because it seems like both strategies have the possibility of like causing a lot of uncomfortable situations, but yours, it just seems like it's way worse. Like, it doesn't seem like it has a possibility of winning. And that's based off like my own, anecdotal experiences. Maybe you guys know some stronger, tougher guys. I doubt Dan Bilzerian is one of them, because that guy's not, if you think he's a good example of it, you need to find a different example.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
and I would also add,
let them answer, guys. Let
Well,
Zeb and John respond.
I'm not advocating at
I
all
guess.
for running away and hiding. I think that's a terrible idea. I don't think that will work. That's no different than staying local and taking a day job and putting your head in the sand. So to be clear, that's not what I'm saying. I want to fight. Number two, again, I'll emphasize, fucking hate Vivek Ramaswamy and Indians, and I want them out. Out. All of them. So like
Yes.
I agree with you. I agree with the premise you're saying. I agree when you walk around, there's no spirit of resistance in the eyes of any white Americans. This was written about once in a book called Mein Kampf. It was the exact state of Weimar Germany. The exact quote I was trying to find, I couldn't quite find it, but something, today the German people has been beaten down, quite other world. Domestic life has lost all spirit, no longer has any faith. Not bringing up Hitler other than having a quick laugh at the name as we all smile at that name, as we've been conditioned to. But his point was that prior to World War II and the German people sort of regaining their identity, it was worse there than it is here now. We're close, but not quite. What was all those books the Nazis burned? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you know. So I would argue you're incorrect in how bad things can feel when there's still a chance. And again, some of this stuff is something of a pep talk. I know you say you don't need it, and I'm happy to hear that. I don't care if there is a 0% chance of winning. I don't care if there's a negative 100% chance of winning. When I get lined up and the firing squad points at me, I'm going to take my dick and nuts out and try to flip them off before they shoot. That to me is the mentality of being free and American. It's not winning, it's preserving the spark. I think all the problems you're describing are, and we haven't talked about that yet, is why are families turning on each other? Why is everyone so miserable? I don't think we're going to fix the problem until those things get addressed.
Let me jump in if I can. We got like 5 minutes, Josh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me touch on comments.
Let me touch on we're gonna go comments. Let me touch on what Alice kind of started this off with, and this idea of a Walmart revolution. I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's not there. They need a spark to be given to them, and it can be. That's kind of beyond the point. When I go to Walmart, I don't know where Tom lives, but I know where the other two live, and when I go to Walmart, I don't even see white people. That's where I'm at. And so when I see that, it's like I'm already invaded. It's already here. Were the Crusades justified? When I drive down through Colombia and I see a Muslim compound with 12-foot walls and barbed wire and the mosque in the middle, it's like, why are we in Iran? Like, what are we doing? And so what's the political solution to that? There isn't one. Even if there is a political solution, it inevitably ends in revolution. And so that's my issue, is no matter what you do, you're going to end up in violence. And it's not just from the government down, it's from everywhere else. We have, again, and I'll state it again, we are a minority in America. Americans are a minority. And so to the question of Zeb just wants to throw the country away, you don't even want to save the country. I was like, I want to save the nation. I don't even know what the country is anymore. It is by definition an economic zone right now. And so I'm perfectly fine with destroying whatever economic zone exists when it's a globalist system built inside of America that we are slaves to. I completely oppose this in late stage capitalism that we're going through right now, and I'm perfectly fine with burning it down. And if the Federation goes with it, I have no issue with that. So yeah,
But that's
I mean,
why
how do you? I guess the question is, how do
disagree.
you stabilize once you get political power? And I still haven't heard a win con. I mean, what? Let me see if I can. A win con would be deporting 150 million immigrants. Like that would be
Right.
a win con. How do you achieve that politically?
How do you do that? Through just like what you guys are describing. It's like we're all gonna move somewhere, and
That's a
like
good
we're gonna
question.
get really angry, and we're gonna be like all in Arkansas, and that's how we're gonna deport 100 million people. Dude, the 100 million people are having like 50 kids a day, bro. You're not gonna get anything other than just making them more angry and then just wanting to kill you. And if that's what you're
You gotta
looking
get
for,
over
to
the
just
fear
have
of
you
that, man. You gotta let that one go. Who fucking cares what they want to do? I don't. There's bears in the woods and they want to eat me. I don't think about it at all.
Yeah, but it's like you and I, we just have two different like
Where
philosophies.
the Tom? Were the Crusades justified?
Well, yeah, but it's
Hold on,
like what
stop
you
there.
guys are describing. It seems to me like it just leads to my family dying.
Well,
You know,
that's
like
a great point.
It doesn't.
Well, he brings up.
It doesn't guarantee me any success.
Your family's gonna die anyway.
No.
This is kind of
Let's
our
go back
point,
to
I think.
Zeb's point. Rewind. Were the Crusades justified? Yes, they were. But is what you are describing this coalition collectivizing around Christianity? It's not. It's collectivizing around white identity, which I think is actually going to be a weaker coalition, especially in today's terms. You think about how we have all the liberal coalition, right? You think these people are going to be leaping? I just watched a video of a guy saying when he sees his own family having kids, he hates it. He can't even he has a hard time looking in the eyes of his sister and congratulating her for having another kid. These people hate themselves. We've seen the heat maps as well too, but that is also another issue I have. I think that the collectivizing around, what is the coalition collectivizing around? Survival, yeah, sure, but what happens after that, right? What does the collective go afterwards? And so I think when you have, again, not to really, dig on Arval, but I will, this kind of trailer park nationalism, I think is really, it's very weak. It's very weak in a future and forward vision. It is only in the essence of it does offer a channel for people who currently want to escape the situations they're in and are okay, trying to attempt to live in a parallel kind of society. But I think for the majority of people, like Tom said, the majority of people, that's not really an option. That they're not going to want to move away entirely from their family, disconnect from that. They're not even probably going to be able to even convince their family. I think if you think of just the marital dynamics, how many husbands are going to be able to convince their wives to move to an all white for the purpose of being only around all white? And I see how most men are with their wives. They ultimately literally just sit there and, take it from them for the most part, which is also another reason why I find it hard to believe they're going to be leading a revolution. But I would say, when you invoke the Crusades, it's like that should be what it's about. It should be about the collectivization around the values of Christ and Christianity, not only and explicitly just the white identity. Not to say I'm not pro-white, but it's also to go back and forth on this element of people keep pushing civic nationalism. What's is it civic nationalism in a 90% plus white country? And you keep saying again, and not to, completely, spurg out here, but on the element of mass deportations, the 150 million, it's like we could have had those today. Why didn't they? It's because they didn't do it. They had no hunger to do it. Are you telling me that Iran can deport Indians by the busload in the middle of a war, but we can't? That's ridiculous. We definitely can. The problem is that the people who are in the positions to be able to do so have no desire to do so. We have all of the policies and legalities in place. You have the big beautiful bill was passed. How many billions of dollars did that funnel into being able to build a wall? And these are arguments that Crowder and Nick had earlier. It's not that we can't do them. It's the fact that the people we keep asking and voting for to get up to that podium is refusing to pull the lever that would give us what we want. And so I think where I would disagree heavily is what you pose. It's like this idea to get a win condition is so far away. And I would say it's not. We had somebody who could was grazing the red button every couple of seconds. They're almost kind of teasing it, playing around with it. They could have got the mass deportations that we needed to make an actual extreme, I would say marginal, maybe even beyond there, statistical difference this election, but it didn't happen. But
it didn't happen.
I think,
and this is the point. this is the point though. It's gone beyond now. This is Donald Trump, and not fulfilling any deportations essentially has taken deportations off the table. The question of deportations is not even going to come into effect until another 8 years probably. And so that's what we're dealing with. It's not even that deportations we could have had it, but it was so close, man. We almost got it. Really, we'll get them next time, man. You know, the next guy we vote for is going to do it. And so when we're 40 years down the road and this iteration has happened another 10 times, we're going to be here with 300 million instead of 150. And so this is what we're dealing with. And the political solution is not there. It's just simply not there.
Well,
I would even
you
argue
pose
that
that as like, well, let me just add one more thing, John.
Yeah.
When you pose like the extra, 40 years down the road, you view that as like that's impossible to overcome. Whereas beating, overcoming and overthrowing the government like isn't. I find that like a hard thing to to compare and hold at the same time. What I would say on top of that would be like the best case scenario would be if you guys, well, for one, would just say Nick's right because he is, and then if we got all the Groypers to actually go along with strategy, what you get in the best case scenario is a Hitlerian candidate who's not going to give a shit what the people think about mass deportations, but actually just does them because it's what is needed. But we can't get that so long as we have so many people hanging on to the ideal of the lesser of two evils. Because the best case scenario is that the violence is done in a legal format, which is the mass deportations, which is 5 Mexicans in a clown car, you're all going. That would be the best case scenario, and in the legal parameter done with law enforcement agencies that we already have. And Lord knows we have like a bajillion 3-letter agencies. They could have done it. We can do it. The point is we have to get someone in office who will do it. That's kind of the crux of my argument there.
That is Amy Acton.
Oh yeah.
All right. I want to give us about 5 more minutes to kind of wrap up in closing statements, and then we'll take super chats. At which point there can still be a little bit of cross section. Huh?
I swear I had a good response here, but I decided to be a fucking asshole instead. And now I'm regretting it with my Amy Acton comment because you made some good points. Do you have any thoughts, Seb? It'll come back to me.
No, Josh.
Okay, it came back to me. I'll go ahead. So you're saying? No, I got it.
Commented much on.
Let John go. Let John go.
This is in response to you, and then I'll shut up and give it back to me. So I kind of would argue maybe we live in different worlds and see it a different way. I think what you're calling, I think you called trailer park nationalism or something like that. I get it. That was a wildly popular and winning platform from 2016 until literally now. And the thing that has turned people against the Republican Party and Trump, myself included to some degree, is not following through on it. I think the majority of people were all about that platform. I think the 2016 election was won by such a wildly large organic margin that there was not enough cheating in place to overturn it. That was figured out in 2020. We got Biden with 80 bajillion votes. What a winner. But I think Trump won that one too on the same get him the fuck out kind of mentality. And then he won in 2024 and then has proceeded to not quite do what we wanted. And we're not happy about that. And I think that is kind of what's giving rise to these influencer types that are all, in my opinion, funneling you all back into the system, into believing that it has some sort of value to you. I don't think it does. This whole like, well, I'd have to sacrifice my friends and family and what I was told when I was a kid I could grow up and be a fireman. I really don't know what to tell you about that. I wish it weren't that way. And you don't have to. In my opinion, if you don't sacrifice those things, or if some people don't, we're fucked. And so I've made the choice to sacrifice them. Nobody will remember me. Nobody will like me. I don't care. I feel like it's worth it. I'm also kind of in a position where like I don't have kids and shit, so it's not being totally selfless and honorable or anything like that. And would I be doing this if I did have kids? Probably not. So I'll be honest about that too. I don't necessarily, to you, Tom, especially, I don't think you should probably leave I think you should pursue the life that whatever it is inside your head that's alive is telling you to do. And I think that's probably going to be more of safe version here as things go on. Things might get really fucking bad, or somebody might in your family might get killed by an illegal or something like that, and it might start to change your opinion. I'm glad that hasn't happened yet. But by all means, yeah, your loyalty, you yourself are at the center of the universe, quite literally in your perception, and then your family around that is your country, and that's where your primary loyalty lies. So again, it's like, yeah, I think you have an out. Nobody expects you to throw everything away for a bunch of people in 100 years where even if you fucking win, they won't care. And they'll go right back to being this way. It's the eternal spiritual battle. So I just like, I don't have a happy answer for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't need a happy answer. I just need an answer that's not like delusional. So, because the whole point of this debate was, why is Nick's strategy not the correct strategy? You're coming at it from this perspective that like none of it matters. It's like a totally like black-pilled perspective. We all need to just operate on a completely different way, and we just need to do all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, no young man in this country is going to like who has it all together is going to hear that and is going to be like, all right, that's what I'm going to subscribe to. The whole point of this debate was what strategy is the best. And after hearing everything, it sounds like Nick is the only one that has a coherent strategy. And that is why so many younger men are subscribing to it and they're following it. It's like you need so many things to go well for you to kind of pull this off. And to say that like I'm doing this for like my own self-interest, I'm not doing this because I want to create a better life for my kids. I've said several times to people who watch me that this is a generational fight. Nothing's going to be fixed overnight. It's a long battle. You have to sacrifice things for the future of this country if you want to take it back, but just completely like black pilling on everything.
How is that black pilling? I don't understand.
Yeah,
because you guys are like saying, oh, because you brought up how like, well, voting isn't real, but then in 2016 it was a completely organic win, and then it's like, well, you got to be okay. You got to be okay.
If they're just gonna fucking reduce it to retard, then I can't even talk to you. I'll repeat that part if you want.
No, but I'm just saying
let's go to closing.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to a super chats, because I mean this could be a 24-hour stream, so Josh, take it.
Yeah, I think so. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give about a minute or two for each candidate to give a response. So since the affirmative started, I'm going to start with
okay. I'll take it.
We'll go back and forth. So Zeb, and then Tom, and then John, and then Atlas. That's what we'll do. All right. So Zeb,
2 or 3 minutes apiece.
Yeah, 2 or 3 minutes apiece.
All right, yeah. I mean, real quick, Atlas made the the claim that our position is based on a lot of assumptions. I would say that your position is based on a lot of assumptions. Also, we have to assume a lot of things just to even have this conversation. The idea across the board, at its core, is Nick's strategy is to win within the system. But the problem of winning within the system is that you need the rules to be applied equally. The system itself needs to operate the way it was meant to be operate and not be abused by the people that have all the money, that control all of the weaponry, right? The problem is everything is controlled. You assume that they'll even let your candidate win on a national level, right? This is the argument we're really arguing for a presidency seat. And to think that the lobbyists, the Jews, name it directly if we can, will even allow you the possibility of winning, I think is delusional, to use Tom's word. The idea that we're just going to vote our way in. You called us 2016, but that's again, that's a longer stream. I'll go ahead and pass it to Tom and we'll answer some supers.
I don't know. I'm just, because the whole point of like the debate was like, what is a better like sounding strategy? And I just don't I just don't buy like any of this. Like, it doesn't resonate with me. Maybe it is because I'm young and I want to save the country and I don't want people to die. Maybe that's what it is, but I just don't see this as completely working. But I think what will happen, if I can just make like a guess towards the future, is you're going to have a split of different groups, and you will have a group of people that are attempting to do what Return to the Land is doing. And I don't want people thinking I don't want them to succeed. I want people to be able to create the communities and have a right of association and build themselves up and not have to live around a bunch of fucking barbarian immigrant Pajeets. Like, I want that, and I want to support it. I just don't think with the way things are going, you can outbreed the fact that you exist in a country that is being handed off to other people that every single year grow to hate you more and more. And I don't think that system will allow you to survive in it. I believe you need to at least attempt, not even on like a large scale. If you want to just have some people that try to infiltrate,
30 seconds,
if you
Tom.
believe that's possible, it has to be done. I don't think you can just completely just remove yourself. And I mean, I don't know. I just don't see what they're proposing as like something that will work, especially for the average white American. I think what Nick is proposing gives them hope, and it's a crazy strategy, but I think it's something that either way is going to be attempted.
John, 2 minutes.
I don't know that I so much look at it as a plan that I think will work. I think it's what's going to happen, and I'm try to plan on how to survive it in the best interests of the people I consider on my side. I expect to go down with a number of bullets through a number of body parts and then be ruthlessly mocked on the internet. Who cares? I just don't care. I get where you're coming from. I feel like you're a little bit straw manning us into this, like we want to go either live in the woods in cabins or run down the street with battle axes. I know you're not literally saying that, but there's nuance there, and we've run out of time to explore it. I think you have been convinced to not advocate for yourselves, and you've been trained to believe that having some kind of warrior spirit, it makes you feel gross and icky, like you're not allowed to, like you're being a bad kid, which is what you were told when you were doing that naturally. So to me, it's more about that. I think we're in complete agreement on a lot of the problems. What I don't see is how turning around and voting for the people that caused all this is a good idea. I would agree that Vivek is a terrible idea as well. In real life, you get these situations where you just can't fucking win. You just can't. So, maybe it's one of those. I don't know. But I appreciate you attempting to make a prediction. I'm big on that. I think you got to hold yourself accountable. So my prediction based on what I've seen, and I think that Nick Fuentes is young enough that we will see this play out. So we'll find out one way or another. And if I'm wrong, I will be glad to be wrong. I think he is a closeted homosexual. I think he has blackmail on him. I think he is made some sort of agreement and is now being utilized to
30 seconds.
lead well-meaning young men who have got a bit of fighting spirit in them enough to find Nick Fuentes. And his job, I don't know it was initially this. I think he was initially maybe being a real dude. But now, for whatever reasons, is trying to redirect you back into the voting apparatus, the system apparatus that is entirely bullshit. It wants you to believe that what I am sort of proposing, or Zeb and I are, is impossible, dangerous, and bad for you. And yes, there is a chance. All I've ever wanted is the chance to actually go grab that battle axe and jump at a bear. I think that's the most you can hope out of life as a white man.
And Atlas,
Maybe.
2 minutes, your finishing remarks.
Yeah, man, it's a great feeling to be hated. To be honest with you, I've seen a lot of the comments, pretty funny. And yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm Middle Eastern. I'm a subversive Jew, a brown, whatever you want to think. I will spend 1 second to respond to the trailer trash comments. Yeah, I am of anybody here qualified to make those. This is where I came from.
I know what you
whole
meant.
point of me. Well, I'm just making the point that the goal is not to remain trailer trash. Like I say it all the time, like recovering wigger, like I acknowledge like everything that was a part of my, earlier life, the influences and such. But yeah, the goal is to not be trailer trash. The goal is to grow from a wigger to a white man. It's maybe I'll leave it at that. I just will piggyback off of Tom. I still sit here and I think that it's a lot of, again, what you guys have proposed. I think is not nearly as coherent as what has been proposed by Nick, and so I think on a strategic level, it's much more sound and much more specific. And to the assumptions element that I think Zeb said, I would say it's not to say that our strategy doesn't have assumptions. It's to say that your strategy has a vast amount of them, much more comparably. And so I think there is this kind of just like this loose sense that, and I think many of people are kind of like picking up on it, or maybe preaching to it, or taking advantage of it, because there is a lot of young men and middle-aged men, older men that are pissed off at the way that this country is being ran, about what is happening in this nation. And so I think a lot of people are taking advantage of the online, disdain for what's happening and trying to convert it into violent energy. And I just don't think that in a very pragmatic sense, it's going to work or it's beneficial or will be productive ultimately. And I think it ultimately just paints a target on a lot of people's backs, like Tom had said earlier. And so I guess not to burn up too much more time, I would say the other element of this is, I think the organic nature of this is the fact that Nick is the leader. I think that's the objective reality of where we are. Nick is the leader of America First. He is the one that's galvanizing young men. He is the knife, if you will, that's penetrating deep
30
into
seconds.
the system. And I think a lot of times, again, I agree with some of these commenters here. A lot of times it feels like people are responding to clips. They don't have the full nuance available. And I think that needs to be said, because politics is a very complex thing, especially when you're covering the day-to-day intricacies of what goes on. And so if you're expecting a simple answer for every single thing that comes up, I think you're just selling yourself a lie that politics is something very simple to grasp. But I guess maybe I'll leave it there. Thanks for having me.
All right. I thought this was a good spirited debate, a lot of good conversation. Honestly, it's no secret that I kind of lean towards the side of the Groypers, but I genuinely think that Zeb and John provide a good argument. And honestly, it got me thinking. It almost makes me think that I could be convinced. Maybe I can, Zeb. Maybe your hard work finally paying off. Well, John's hard work, but Atlas, Tom, you guys held your own as well. So we're going to go ahead and get into some comments and super chats and allow everyone to kind of respond to those. So first off, we have Zeb is gay.
Love you, Donnie.
Listen, which is how you know Nick is gay. Let your imagination run wild.
I will say, out of the four of us, I'm not 100% on Tom. I don't think he's married. I don't think he has kids. But me and Atlas talk offline a good bit too. So this idea kind of comes up, not the gay idea, but just it's nearly impossible, and John hit on it earlier too. It's nearly impossible to have a family and kids, a wife and kids, a family, and be in this fear. It's extremely hard. You have to sacrifice a lot, which is why really I haven't even been online in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks or so. I mean, we're having major changes happening, and so that just stacks on top of everything else, but we have more to lose. And so I mean, that again, that's why I'm doing this. Also, I'm not gay, so there's that.
Yeah, well, I guess to just piggyback off that, I do agree, and I think there's an element inside of there though too, just to add a little bit more nuance, is why it's hard for me to get behind the whole like just get married element. I think we still need to explore reasons inside of that why so many marriages fail, and I think that's why you can't have, again, to go back to the complex thing, you can't have very simple solutions. But I do agree with you. Being in the space and having kids and a wife and trying to protect them, keeping them out of the sphere, while also trying to maintain some semblance of a schedule or routine is very, very difficult.
Just real quick on this topic, like name one other actually traditional family influencer that carries a sizable audience.
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Um,
How many kids does he have?
man,
Well, this
I
should
guess
be
Matt
tipping
Walsh
you-
comes to mind. I
should be
guess
Not
tipping
enough.
you off, this should be tipping you off as to why a lot of our laws and policies seem to be written by people that don't give a fuck about families, because that's who's in charge now.
Oh, Ben Shapiro. There you go.
Nice, dude. Good point. Good point.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
point. Good point.
Hell yeah.
Why is his successful and mine's not? What's the difference?
How does he make it all work?
Does that count as traditional though? Oh, I'm mashing.
Oh,
moving
well,
stuff, sorry.
no button mashing, Zeb. I'm driving this bus.
Josh is
I am
Jewish.
the captain of this boat.
Josh
All
is
right.
12% Jewish.
That
12.
can't be proven on paper. Mitchell Black says, "Who's John Ward?" He's the guy on the right.
Hold on, let John answer. Who's John Ward? That's a good question.
Doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't
The
matter.
question is who's John Galt is the question.
Who's John Galt? I think I'm concerned that you guys are going through with Nick Fuentes what I went through with Donald Trump.
That's fair.
I hope it doesn't turn out that way. And I once made a promise to myself I would never say anything negative about Donald Trump. I would definitely believe it. I might be sort of implying I believe that now.
So are you saying you're glad you left the MAGA cult?
I think you're in a cult is what I think I'm saying. And
So
I think
cults
Let me-
are
let me- can I-
necessary. Well, so
I don't
cults
know
are
that I'd say
necessary
I'm-
to win.
Yeah.
Is there an
I-
agreement here?
We t-
I think where we fucked up was like 5 years in, and I don't want that to be repeated. Well, we fucked up when the pivot happened, and I see a pivot happening with Nick, and you don't see it when you're in it. It's what I see.
Interesting.
I hope you're right too. I hope you win politically. I would
correct.
prefer that.
Be thrilled to be totally wrong. Absolutely
Yeah.
thrilled.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, this is why I'm putting all faith and hope in this, and why I'm seeing and spending time to it. Because I think, again, and I agree with Tom on this. I think the other way around is like, I mean, it's just like new China. I don't think it's going to be America 3. It's going to be new China or some version of New Delhi, or maybe it just gets split up, and India takes the bottom half, and China takes the other half, and Israel just attaches itself, and now it's greater Israel or something like that.
I feel like that's, we said we made a lot of assumptions. I feel like I'm only making one assumption, which is it's going down. That's my assumption.
But you also think that you're going to survive?
No, I
Or at
don't.
least
I don't
whites
think
are gonna survive?
I think I said I thought I was going to end pretty quickly with bullet holes through many different parts of my body. And I just accepted it.
Mm.
But then it's
See, like that's
over.
the thing. Is like that. It doesn't like you.
I
Like,
just
I don't
think it
wanna do
doesn't compute for you that I really believe that. Like, I just don't think it computes for you that that's real.
I don't think it does either, John. I mean, look at anything great. I mean,
We got a lot of chats to get through, guys.
okay, go ahead.
He's
not
like,
an
shut
insult, it's not an insult, Tom. I was a giant pussy for the first half of my life.
No,
I
I
just-
just think.
Are you calling
like, just
Tom a pussy? Is that
dying.
where we're at right now?
No,
I don't
think
know.
No, he's expressing concern for the weaker people around him that he's responsible for.
I
and
just
think
don't think
that's
it's as badass as you think it sounds. It's like,
I-
yeah, I'm
see,
gonna
that's-
fucking
I
just
don't
die for
think
no
it's-
reason.
I-
My nuts are gonna be hanging out. It's
Rayfield
no,
died
no,
for
no,
Nicholas
no.
J.
I
Fuentes.
think
You always assume that I think it's badass, and I don't. I wish it weren't that way. It's acceptance of accepting it, and what
Yeah.
you're seeing now is called gallows humor.
in
RKD
John's
friends, yeah.
defense, I think it's like a cynical acceptance rather than like a it's just what it is, man.
In fact,
Even
I
though it's
even
kinda
did
same thing.
point that out.
But-
I said when
All
they
right,
point the
Big
firing line,
is and Kubudu says dicks out for Harambe. Hashtag never forget. Was that a black guy or
Now?
something?
Can we do it now?
Is that a joke?
No, I know.
Oh, okay.
Harambe is. Yeah, that was a joke. All right, we'll get through a couple of these. And Mitchell Black says, I just got word Netanyahu that whichever side is the most anti-Semitic will receive a large donation.
I saw that when it came up.
Pretty
So
good.
who won?
Yeah, who won? It's a great question.
I feel like I won that one.
I think we all lost here.
I don't think there was enough anti-Semitism. Waifu long
Tom
name
will.
says,
That's it, dude.
"Damn that voice smooth."
Oh, that was about
me?
Atlas. I remember that one too.
That was definitely Tom.
Nah, definitely not me. If
I'm
it's
pretty,
anybody,
I'm pretty
it's
sure
not
that
me.
came up when Atlas was doing his first 10 minutes.
That's funny. I appreciate it though. Thank you.
Dr. Tetanus says, "It only matters when a candidate has no problem using the power afforded against their enemies or if they fundamentally change the system like Uncle."
Let me ask this to Atlas and Tom, which is kind of along the same lines. If you had a person in office, let's say governor, I guess it's a secession question, kind of. Would you utilize the National Guard to almost weaponize it against the invaders within the state?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, because if you think about like Texas, for example, their National Guard is like huge, and they have like their own navy and everything. Like it's pretty powerful. If that's what you had to do to deport people, hell yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback off the.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, well, I was just going to say I'd piggyback off the legislation, put forward by Dan McKnight in some of these different areas, which restricted heavily what the National Guard could be used for. And I would even probably try to introduce things, if I could, in whatever way I could possible, to the state legislature to deputize them to the highest level possible, and also install like channels in which, if ever DHS or ICE or other some entity needed help in the arena, the National Guard could be very easily called up to help with whatever was going on. So yeah, I would deputize them to the fullest extent.
And then the judge shut you down.
Yeah.
They might kill me first.
You might have some
Rowan
problems.
Ridge Farms.
Hold on.
Oh, I was
Go
just
ahead,
gonna say,
John.
using the Texas National Guard for deportations might not work out great for you.
You gotta
What?
you gotta like pin them against each other.
Because half of them
Half of them are probably
would
Mexican.
fucking start running away.
You gotta,
yeah.
Need a lot of clown.
You got to
cars.
offer them $1 million a pop, and then when they push the rest out the door, you got to close the door behind them.
That's the real
I-
self
I said it.
deportation.
I've said it before. There's gonna be like a civil war between Indians and Mexicans. It's gonna happen.
Well, would that not be
That would
another
be
element,
cool.
like
Bro.
offering
Yeah.
financial rewards? Like, hey, this guy's been missing for 2 weeks, $5,000 prize reward. Somebody turns him in. That's what I would be turning over and using the money for. I would turn on the Fed printer to give me money just for that. Just give out payouts.
Yeah, but that seems like
Bottles of
violent
tequila.
revolution to me.
2 bottles of tequila each immigrant.
Dude,
You guys are talking
unironically,
about a
bring back Crime
pretty violent
Stoppers.
plan. It's a pretty violent plan you grapers
No,
have come up with. I don't know how I feel about this violence.
But we already have like a system, right? We already have a bounty system and reward system like that. Doesn't start violent revolution. And who knows? I think it would have a response bias anyways. I think the people
we
who
don't-
would know the immigrants would be the ones who wouldn't bring them in. It'd only be by chance if somebody kind of figured it out.
I mean, if you were like using a certain group to go after Indians, there are a lot of Indians, but there's not as much as like blacks or Hispanics. You just gotta pick the bigger side, you know? It's like, hey,
now.
we'll give you
All right.
watermelon.
I feel like you're not following this to its logical conclusion at all. Like, not even trying to.
All right. Rowan Ridge Farm says, anyone trying to lead a movement without a multi-generational plan built around families is a fool or an opportunist or a packer of fudge. Nick's pushing short-term fixes, calls marriage and family a chore. Do the math.
Can you put it back on screen again, Josh?
No.
Yeah, this is kind of the ideal that I'm hesitant against, and I think I explore it with the death penalty as well. I will never get behind the death penalty so long as women judges are allowed to be judges in this country. I think that's a huge flaw. You're essentially adding an element that the woman judge can continue, irrespective of the patriarchy, be in a position that she shouldn't be in the first place, to hand down judgment that she is in no position to give nor discern with. The same thing is true of the families thing. The coalition needs to be built around like why family court is still even in existence and my Republicans won't touch it. That's another element that you're going to need a very strong presence, another strong outsider presence, because the GOP currently protects it in its current form. We saw what happened to Jeff Younger when he tried going to different, Republican coalitions, different churches, different, Christian groups basically got shunned, pushed out. Same thing's true of when Matt Walsh offers up his, basic ass take of, just get married. That's the solution. Yet again, irrespective of all the other downstream consequences of what that does, broken marriage, broken home for families, broken children homes growing up, opens it up for single motherhood, and all these things. And so it's like, I can't say, to build a plan around families. What does that mean? Are we going to, is feminism allowed? Is it not allowed? What is that plan? And who's even going to be pushing for that? And again, that's another argument I would go in with people who are detractors like Arval, right? Arval recently got divorced or was divorced as well in the past. And this is also people attack on the leadership. Nick's not pushing a plan for families, but it's coming from people like Dane Blazerian. Dane Blazerian, I had sex with 9 women at once. Okay, that's fantastic. How are we going to build a multi-generational plan around that? So I think the people who are the quickest to offer up judgment are also ones who are not leading lives or any kind of examples that you would also want your children to model themselves after.
I mean, I would disagree as a general, but I don't even think we can make multi-generational plans, right? Everything we do is reactionary because we don't control the system. Everything we do is reactionary, and so if we're planning anything beyond like 8 years as a plan, as a collective plan, it's just not possible. Everything we do is reactive because, again, we have essentially given up the system, and so it leads to our position of the inevitable. It's this idea that we can now I don't deny that we should try to build families. Maybe I'm not fully on board with Atlas there. I do think there is a listen, I'm not saying go marry an OnlyFans chick. That's not what I'm saying, but at the same time we have to maybe it gets back to where John was at talking about the cultural war. We have to win this gay culture war.
Yeah, to that point,
breaking news, they're all OnlyFans models now. My bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think
It's
you
difficult.
guys have lost the thread when you talk about convincing people to join your side. I think what you ought to be doing is telling people what to do, and that's what you want. And that is, again, counterintuitively maybe, but if you look back at the rise of Trump or ding, 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 Nick Fuentes, as we see in the chat, it's almost a meme of I don't even think, I just do what Nick tells me to do. The people who assertively are told
Correct.
people what, this is exactly how Trump took power. We're going to win, and we're going to keep winning, and you're going to get so fucking tired of winning. He just told them. And this is a uniquely human thing. We're not machines. We're animals. These things matter. Authority matters. Assertive people matter. There is an alpha structure in us like all primates have, or at least collective ones.
Well, you would admit that Trump is an enigma.
We could talk about Trump for years. You get a PhD in Trump if you wanted to. But I'm just saying is looking at the things that work and the things that don't from a psychology perspective, maybe. Or I mean, this is something the left is great at. Chomsky, manufacturing consent. The rise of the left was telling a bunch of NPCs just what to do, and they still do. And what you're going to learn, and this is what I think is the real black pill. Most people just do what they're told. They're like not.
All right, you ready?
Soul. Yeah,
John, vote Democrat in the midterms. Done.
I'm not doing that. You see, I have a soul.
See, it didn't work. So why'd you tell me to do it? It didn't work.
It's a lonely existence.
John's exception.
Thinking about shit,
you'll learn.
All right, we got to move on here.
We don't have to move on. Josh just has to get to bed.
That's right. It's my Betty by time. Need Binky. Would voting a true nationalist even be possible with our demographics or any state's demographics outside of some of the Midwest?
Hide your power level.
How could it not be? Trump literally just won on that platform.
Thank you. I was going to say that. He just ran on mass deportations and won even the popular vote, too. It's not even a question at all.
It's a good platform.
Yeah.
It's a winning platform.
Correct.
You guys, any thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean,
Tom's been pretty quiet. Go for it.
no, I mean, it's like people want deportations. You just had an entire election where people were holding signs, like normal everyday, like moms stood in line for hours at a Trump rally and held up signs. They had the shooting happen and people still went to rallies after that and were holding up signs. So it is a platform you could run on. and you do need the right person. And yeah, there's a donor class that gets involved and they fuck everything up. It's not like something that would be easy, but nationalism, that is very winnable.
I guess
can
the
sell that
question
to
I would
people.
pose. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
No. I that's pretty much it.
I mean, I guess the question I would pose is was Trump's campaign actually Trump, or was it manufactured to actually get the nationalist vote? Right. I think if the Epstein files coming out, we look at that, and I mean, I would pinpoint back to like 2018, 2017 at a minimum, or at the latest, that Trump kind of switched up on us to some extent, and so it only follows is that was Trump even campaign Trump at all ever?
Well, I don't think that matters in this context of this question. You could make the argument, and just for argument's sake, I'll agree. There was no at all plan for Trump to ever carry out mass deportations, but he still ran on it, and people voted for it. So regardless of what the back end intentions were, people still were being told one thing, and they voted for that thing.
Fair.
All right.
Redistricting helps us too if it passes, which it failed in South Carolina.
Yeah,
Did? Oh,
which happened in Virginia.
They'll run it again on a special.
Dude's lungs are absolute soldiers, just so it's said. I assume he's referring to Tom.
Yeah. Sure he's I thought he was talking about me chain smoking.
Oh, he is talking about John.
Yeah. What?
That's me, John.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! All right,
yeah,
Groypers.
I want to die. My lungs do too. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry, John. I was in a rush.
No, read the
Josh,
question.
can you keep this shit on screen? Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's a timer. It lasts for like a second. Groypers notice the patterns. Also, Groypers, no, not the ones that expose Nick as a Civnat LARPer.
I mean, this is kind of what I'm not. This is where I don't get it. The whole Civnat LARPing thing is like, that's why I think you lose the practicality of the argument of what's being collectivized around if it's for our survival. And again, how many times Nick has said he's pro-white, and again, I think it just feels like it's so irrespective of the actual reality of like what is this country, who the people are in this country, and what makes the trains run on time, even though they don't. And so when I see like he's still, pushing for be pro-white, he's speaking largely to young white men to be better elite human capital, to rise up elite. I don't get why it seems, and I'll just lay this out there, it seems for some people that they want a 100% white country, they'll take nothing less than that. And that to me is just like, you would have to break so many Christian principles to get to that point. I think getting to an 80%.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, he's jokingly or not, he said he gave up on immigration the other day, and even beyond that, this constant alliance with Sneeko, whatever that Soleimani guy is, right? This Christian Muslim alliance, this alliance with Kanye. I mean, none of this is Christian and none of this is pro-white. So this continuous bring up Ali Alexander if you want to, but this continuous idea that Nick says he's pro-white and then does the other thing is a problem in itself, right? He bashes Arval in his attempt to actually do something. He bashes Patriot Front as feds in attempt to actually do something when there's no evidence to the case that Patriot Front is a fed. Even beyond that, to your point earlier about, there's nothing Christian about that, or there's no real Christian movement. I mean, I would say there is. There's a movement called the New Way. I would go check them out if you want to, but they don't dance around to the same tune as Patriot Front does, but it's the same concept of giving guys an identity and trying to build on that. They're trying to build parallel societies. To an extent, even beyond that, they're trying to build parallel institutions. So,
yeah, for Miles, I want to be clear too. I don't believe that the white thing is maybe more a Zeb thing than me. I would accept it as like maybe a necessary component of a functional society. I do care about it. I think it's so far down the road of shit we need to care about. And I'll do the fucking classic thing where it's like, yeah, I've run into people that aren't white that are great allies, but I have. Sure, you have too.
Well, ideology is just that. It's it's shooting for something that is the idealistic.
No, I mean,
And,
so I was actually mostly in agreement with Nick Fuentes up until recently. I don't know if I was clear about that either. My problem with him started with what I perceive as him switching.
Word got
Which
the
was-
call, I heard.
The
Dan
call.
Bilzerian called him up, said, I got something I want you to say.
Yo,
Go ahead,
put your
Paul.
phone in the other room real quick.
Where did I get what was the thing I said that was Jewish? Oh, you mean all the race mixing shit?
No, you
I
had
do
said you said something to the effect of you were in full agreement with Nick until recently, and I was like, oh, because he got the call. You know, somebody told him, hey, time to counter signal Nick.
I got the call. Oh, I'm with you now.
Yep.
Like Arvel got the call.
Yeah,
Yes.
is Arvel the guy doing
Dude.
the all white parallel society, right? That's that guy. Yeah, I don't think that's
Right.
gonna work. I mean, I agree with you.
It's
I don't think that's
it's
gonna
not.
work.
He's already lost the court case.
Really?
Really.
Even if he didn't, I don't think that's the long.
Well, first of all, you don't do it in freaking Pennsylvania. What a retard. Anyway,
Is that? I thought it was
Yeah,
like in
so-
Arkansas or something.
Dude, I didn't even know that fucking just happened. Well, I mean, he did take the call from a Jew. That just happened too.
That's true.
12%. 12%.
12%. I'm a 12% Jew. How dare you?
I don't
But
know
it is
that
true.
I
That
believe
is
it
true.
needs to be explicitly white or Christian, because I think the more fundamental idea will allow all that stuff to take care of itself, which is that you're a human being that has value. Things should be better than this. You are not a slave, and you're free. And out of that mindset comes white culture and Christianity. If anything, I'd just like
Yeah.
to wake people up to that again.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
I'm
it's
aware
undeniable
kind
it's a
of
white country. You know what I mean? Like, it's clearly and definitely like a white country. And no, I don't think anyone who's being objectively or honest with you wouldn't be able to deny that. I guess it's more so of, I don't, you know, to go back to what Zeb says for the win condition, I don't see, I think you could even get to like the low 80s of white, and we would still be significantly better off than where we were.
I mean, wouldn't you
perhaps
also
can
say,
get
like,
that by
82 is
deportations.
generally the line.
it might be more of a woman thing, but a huge part of the problem, in my opinion, in this country are white people too. Like, that is a huge, in fact, somebody pointed that out.
Right.
The people
Right.
with
Yeah.
I
white,
did.
just
Someone's
as much of a problem. So you can't make a society out of those people. So like,
Yeah,
what do
like-
you do?
All the whites in Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let's get
again,
to
I
this
think
next.
that are they going to quit? Are they going to change? Are they going to see the light? I think the answer is no, which again leads me to the assumption. I agree, it's an assumption. It's going down because they won't stop. And so you can
Till
either allow
black
yourself
knives
to
chop their heads off.
Fully
But we
more.
got to keep it rolling. Dr. Titanus says, once more, into the breach, dear friends, once more, Beardsley, fetch my horse so that I can make my escape and call our English dead, useful idiots. Nick, hold on, I got to do the math on that one. Oh, it's
eighth, I
gone.
think it was.
The 8th. No, yeah, 3, yeah.
I am not mind raped enough to make sense of the super chat in front of me.
Don't
Well,
get it.
once more under the breach is Shakespeare. It's a great line.
I'm a wigger. I don't read.
Beardsley, fetch my horse so that I may escape and call our English deed useful idiots. I think
There was
he's alluding to the idea that Nick being essentially a director that can't be questioned.
In our defense, Shakespeare at
Cold
11
fish.
p.m. is a rough.
Let me
Track.
real quick. It's never real quick, but here we are. Listen, I'm not opposed to following a leader. I mean, I wouldn't even be opposed to Nick per se, right? I think the issue in question is anyone that threatens Nick on any scale is shot down, is attacked with so-called Gorper curse. Whether they attack Nick or not, it is a threat to him and his power structure. And so this is the issue: is that if there was someone better than Nick, there is no void for it to be filled because it's already filled by Nick, and all it takes is a directional point to destroy anyone. With whether they're bots or not, they largely post like NPCs on Twitter. The Groiper accounts attack relentlessly, so it's
Mhm.
Well,
It is
you want to
like
spawn on
it
that,
is.
Tom?
Yeah, so like it is like a little cultish, like 100%. But we talked about this when Atlas and I went on focus trip the other day. It's like with the way the generations are kind of moving is like you're gonna have a generation of people that are gonna be cultish. They're cultish already. You have it on all sides, whether it's like crazy trans leftists that want to start a revolution and they want to get into the Second Amendment and shoot up schools, or you have people like with us who are following Nick. You're gonna get like a cultist generation that want to follow a leader, and that's just what's gonna come next. Now, as for like the leader aspect, if there's somebody better than Nick, in my opinion, the way I view it is like, well, if they are better, no matter what we do, they would prevail. But most of the time, they don't, and that's what people are looking for. That's the thing is like what works now and what will work. It's not like a leader you get to choose who they are or you get to pick them. If they don't win, and if the younger generations do not resonate with them and they don't want to follow them, it doesn't matter. So like at this point in time, Nick is the ultimate leader because he resonates with the younger generation, which is, becoming the fighting age males, not just with Gen Z, but with Gen Alpha. And because of that, he's going to be the leader of this idea that is America first. That's why the movement is him currently. And every single time somebody tries to come up and say, well, Nick did a lot for the movement, but it's time for a real man to step aside, and then they proceed to get raped on Twitter for 3 days and then quit. It's like every single time somebody has to propose a new ideology of what America first is, they always have to refer to Nick or talk about Nick. So at this point in time, he is the leader. And people are going to be cultish about that. And if somebody really is better, they'll overcome that. But until that happens, it's like you're just going to have to suck it up. Like, honestly.
I think that same conversation was had about Joseph Smith in Utah at some point.
And Hitler?
I would say
he did a lot of good, right?
I was
more pointing out that again, you guys have this impression that nothing existed before Nick Fuentes. Cultish behavior is the human default. Pythagoras
there was stuff. He's not the center of the universe. You're telling me this for the first time?
No, we don't live in a time that makes us predisposed to cultish behavior. We just are always predisposed to cultish behavior. Like I said, I was in a Trump cult for sure.
Well, I would be very specific to reference what Zeb would pose, which is, anybody that's a threat, Nick has to coordinate against them. I don't think, we'll go to the recent event with Dan Bilzerian, Leonardo Joni, Jake Shields, and Amy Dangerfield, Australian foreign national. Why is she involved? No one knows. But when you look at those individuals, it's Nick is separating himself from those people, which I think is a good thing. And I think Zeb would agree with this. He calls Nick a moderate all the time. That's perfect. Because now when they point to Nick, they now also have to point to a group further to the right than him. And now what it's done is it's shown that Nick has moved closer to what is more acceptable inside the Overton window. And I think that's a good thing. I think that means he's more politically expedient. He's more politically palpable for what is going on in the current system. So when he separates himself from Dan Bilzerian, Jake Shields, Leonardo Joni, and he makes it, ostensibly that their one singular issue is Jews bad, let's go blow up Israel, especially if you look at Dan Bilzerian. I don't know if you could say that for the other two. That is kind of shaping that position to be, there is a faction of people who only think the Jews do everything. And I think he had a great point on the Crowder thing earlier when Crowder brought up, well, Amy Acton is Jewish. But Nick said, he's like, well, this is kind of the point. I'm glad you brought that up because there's more at play here than the Jewish question. It's not to say the Jewish question isn't important, but it is to say there are other factors and elements that involve themselves in our political ecosystem that is outside of Israel.
Like something a Jew would say.
12%.
Here we go.
I agree. I agree entirely. Here's the problem is that if you're going to make that case, then you have to. This could be all built up. Me and John talked for like 2 seconds before all this said, and we basically came to the conclusion that. I say it all the time. Everyone's a Fed except me, right? We both hold that Nick is at a minimum compromised. And this idea that Dan Bilzerian is also some informant is not beyond the realm of possibility. I would even say probably to some extent.
Yes, I never got the
this is
chance
what we're
to
dealing
say
with. It's like, okay,
a ridiculous person. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We need each other to an extent, right? You need us to push the Overton window so that you retain inside the Overton window. Nick should recognize this. This is what the left does all the time. This is a ratchet strap strategy. So instead of cutting it at the kneecaps, let it play out a little bit. Let Dan Bilzerian rule the ratchet strap out. Let it go. Take on Randy Fine. Let it all blow up, dude. And then reel it back in. But that's never going to happen because Nick feels threatened by some people that probably
Dan
shouldn't threaten
attacked him first. He's the one who called all those people and was like, hey, I'm going to make a post calling him a Fed. And hey, Arval, make sure you make a 30-minute video disavowing him when I get all my friends on Twitter to talk shit. That's fucking
all of this
fair game
started
for
with
Nick
Casey.
to stand up for himself.
I don't really, I think what's off-putting to older people, and I don't expect you to like respect older people. I didn't. So don't like, I'm saying I'm right and you should agree with me, but I'm just saying I don't fucking care who said what first. I'm not a 10-year-old girl. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care who called out who first. I think Zeb made a good, like Bilzerian and Casey Putsch too. You can make the argument that they have shifted the Overton window. They've opened up the door for the kind of candidate you guys want. And 2 years or 4 years is not a very long time for change on a society-wide scale. I want to say one other thing too quick. I have no argument that Nick Fuentes is the leader of America First, and I see that expressed a lot. Like there's this impression that we're challenging his leadership of that group. I think we all, at least I think he is the leader of that group, and 100%, for better or worse, he's the one. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, I think the term is largely thrown around like it only means the thing it means for the person that is using it at the time to an extent. But yeah,
they're just. Correct me if I'm wrong. That seems to be a point of contention with the Groypers. Is there people out there saying that Nick is not the leader of American First? I didn't even know that.
Well, so this is part of where Amy Dangerfield and Dan Bilzerian come in at, which is they are saying that Nick's not doing enough. You know, America First United, which was largely orchestrated by Dangerfield with the help of Dan Bilzerian. Okay. You know, when they ran the New York Times article, they quoted Dangerfield as saying, you know, America First needs to be bigger than what Nick is doing, kind of taking shots at the fact that all he does is podcasting, which is, again, it's irrespective. It's like if you talk to Amy Dangerfield, her life must have started in December of 2025. You know, how many AFPACs were there? Nick has done events in the past. And I think it's with the recent events of violence, he's kind of held back. It's like, maybe we'll wait a little bit. Maybe we'll see what happens in the public. And I think that's not a unreasonable thing to say, especially when there was a killer who did show up to his house fully intent on killing him. And then only for weeks later, some random Jewish woman showing up at his house. It's cooled down from then a little bit since, but I think there's reasoning inside of there. But also to make the point too, which is they are attempting a kind of a hostile takeover. But I get what you're saying about, you know, Arval and pushing the Overton window, but that's why Nick also has to separate himself. Because if he was to support them, Nick would be thrown in that bunch. There'd be no visible like schism shown. Because what he's trying to really establish is that he is a separate entity from what they are doing. And I think
why can't he just say something version of what I'm saying, which is just a middle ground? I mean, I feel like this is fallacy of the excluded middle. Like, hey, I don't back or endorse Casey Putsch or Dan Bilzerian, but I appreciate that they're entering into the conversation certain things. Some of it's fucking retarded. Like I just said, I'm not backing or endorsing them. But
this is
there is a middle ground between that and a Democrat or a Zionist.
But that, again, is irrespective of what actually happened. You know, Casey, again, you said you don't care about who started it. Well, Nick was hands off the majority of the time. He avoided it, right? He kept it at arm's length. He treated the same way with Fishback, right? Avoiding to endorse to either whether it would hurt or help the candidacy. And what even started it was that a super chatter asked Nick, because Nick was not making Casey a point of his show. He hadn't decided yet, ultimately. And so he responds to a super chatter because a super chatter paid 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks for Nick to answer a question. He answers it in a 30-second clip, and that's what became ground zero for all of this. And so, you know, Casey, and we even have evidence after the fact, right? I think there's two notable staffers said that for, you know, all these different accusations. I don't know if Casey's going to sue them under the NDA, but you have one staffer basically saying that Casey was so desperate to get Nick's endorsement, he was trying to get random kids, random young people to go get the endorsement form or to reach out to him. You also have another staffer saying that Casey was literally like just like an asshole. He wasn't even attempting to use the social media team that was given to him. He was trying to do all of the tweets himself. You also have the element of the fact that he entered the race late. I think there was a lot of reasons why you wouldn't support Casey Putsch. I mean, when I looked at just the Bowling Green polling data from 2025, there's 4 reports quarterly, I do believe, or no, it's thirds. It's in thirds, so there's 3 of them in 2025. You get to 26, and then Casey's only on one of those top line analyses, and it's the very last one. Casey was not hardly even present in that entire race against, I would say, arguably the most daunting candidate of any governor race that was happening. Vivek Ramaswamy has all of the money. Zeb said it earlier, right? Billions endorsement behind him. He's an extension of the Teal network. And on top of that, what you have is he has all of the word of mouth endorsement. Trump had already endorsed him, and he'd been in the race for a long time. So Casey went up against like a strong opposition, and he started extremely late, so late to the point that many staffers didn't even think he would be on the ballot. So I think there's a lot of good reasons why you wouldn't have supported Casey Putsch. And I don't think he does represent the same pushing of the Overton window that Dan Bilzerian does. I think Casey was actually trying to find safe positions inside of the dissident right, which is why he was kind of pro Nick early on, pro these people early on. I think he was really just trying to loosely gauge what was going to get him traction online.
A lot of that can be said about Baker too, but even beyond the point, when Nick was talking to Crowder earlier today, Crowder posed multiple questions to him to the idea of, if this candidate was this and this and this and this, would you vote for them over this candidate, this and this and this? And basically what it boiled down to is Nick saying, no, I'm not going to advocate anyone except for the singular person that I'm going to put into place for office. That's essentially what it boiled down to. If they don't go through me, I'm not going to endorse him. At the end of the day, that's what he was essentially saying. I don't know if you would disagree with that, but that's where he was at. And so it's almost to the point now as if we're glazing Hitler for 10 years and Hitler ran for office, will we endorse him? It almost seems like the answer would be no.
Well, dude, when Steven Crowder was asking him the questions, the reason he kept saying no is because it was like, hey, I'm for all these things you like, but I'm also for waiting 3 months on the war with Iran. And is it possible for us to want to bomb Iran without Israel's involvement? And it came back to the fact that it's no, like the only reason we're there is because of Israel. And so that's why he kept saying no, is because it's like,
I agree. The positions that Crowder was pushing were absurd. It was flipped on his head. I would have said no too. Yeah. But the follow-up from Nick was essentially, there's no candidate that I'm going to endorse to an extent, except for this one guy that I've got coming. Just wait. I really got somebody coming. Just wait.
Well, what I would add on top of that is I'm pretty sure, now fact check me if I'm wrong, but I'm positive he said the words verbatim, I have a candidate in mind. So that kind of tells me perhaps there is somebody and he doesn't want to soil it. So there's maybe an element of the strategy in which he's not going to announce ahead of time for the person he wants to endorse later on. So I saw that when I saw that quotation, and I think that's the correct strategy. He needs to stay hands off, because if he starts early on, it gives ample time to provide a counter strategy.
Well, I don't get into this because we just spent 20 minutes talking about that and not killing our slave overlords. That's what we should be talking about right now. That and punching grizzly fuck bears.
Well, let me
fuck the people that live.
My
that
screen's
rule
glowing
over
again.
us. Wasting time talking about he said, she said. Who gives a fuck? I'm not punching a bear, and it's pissing me off. Sorry.
As long as it's
this is the bear question, John. This is exactly the bear question for the women, but the Groypers have a bear question between the Democrat and the Indian, the Jew and the Indian. That's what it is.
I'm more
That's an easy
from
choice over
outside
here.
looking in after these debates. I think are designed to make you guys look gay to the average person. It's like, wow, they just ranted for 20 minutes about like who said what.
No.
It's gay. Just gay.
Hold on.
No, we're done.
Okay.
It was a good discussion, but we got to listen.
I was going to give Nick flowers, but okay.
I don't believe you. We got to get into some of these fantastic super chats. Poor Dave Portnoy is annoying. Great example. I'm starting to feel like Nick.
Maybe he's out there in the woods somewhere.
Are you still talking about bears? What's going on?
I don't know. Yeah, pretty single-minded right now.
Okay. Atlas.
Bear o'clock.
I'm a Wigger nationalist. You're just a Wigger.
That's funny. I am the most elite of elite. I'm an S-tier Wigger. Come and get some advice from me of how to not be one.
Life is weird, man.
I'm going to be hated. I've noticed this the last couple of
places you go.
Yeah, I'm cool with it though. I think it's gives a little bit of aura.
Doctor,
Need some haters, man. Let me get my Dr.
So-
Scholl song, get my lips
So
off.
wild the places you go. You just the places you go.
I'm too intimidating, I guess.
I'm glad to say I knew what you meant when you said the trailer thing. I did not. The chat was going off. I was like, that's not what he was fucking saying. Come on.
Speaking of
Chat's-
which,
chat.
trailer park trash, the new basket of deplorables.
That's not what he said.
I mean, are we seriously saying that the end goal of white civilization is we all live in trailers? Like, come on. Like, no. I grew up around it, man. It changed me forever. Like, I'm not JD Vance sitting here and saying I hate these people. Man, let me go marry an Indian. But I'm looking at it and going, look what happened to these people. You know, my own family was afflicted by methadone clinics and heroin. Like, I've been around it. It's not the end state of where white civilization is supposed to be. So, like, yeah, like, forgive me if I don't want people to be trailer trash, dude. Like, I want people to be anything but, to be a white man and not a wigger.
Amen. I want to
Right.
build shit, dude. That's what I want us to
Right.
do.
I want to build
What'd
a
you say,
trailer
Tom?
park full of bears.
A glorious trailer park with gold.
I can't take John serious, man.
I like John.
What
I
if
like
we get to
Zeb.
heaven and it's just trailers?
Yeah,
What if
I
I got
got
a Toy Story trailer?
Hell yeah.
What if it's me? What if the pearly gates open and I'm like, surprise?
He's-
Yes, before
I'd
I've
walk
always
back
been
down the
with you.
stairs.
Haven't you noticed?
Hitler
Your
and
hardest
Epstein are there.
moments on the beach, there was only one set of footprints, and then the bear prints we were following. All right, I'm done.
We just gotta listen. Your discussion is way better than the super chats. We're just gonna burn
That's a
through
great-
them.
a great
Respond in a
comment.
second. If Nick can squat 200 below parallel, okay, Nick's skinny twink.
It's a great
I want
Comment.
to see Nick's ass cheeks flex. That is gay.
Oh, see, nah, that
Dr.
was
Tetanus is a
projection, was what that
homosexual
was.
confirmed.
That was all the
Parroted
gay
cash feds
penis
bullshit.
you've absorbed.
Done.
Hold on. John, we're just going to burn through these dog shit super chats.
Shut
and,
up, Josh.
and then we'll get to a discussion. GeoGasser. Cash Patel is fat and ugly. Lord of the Ree. Which Christian principles, Atlas, please elaborate. Don't do that.
We
Not-
touched
Some of
on
these
that.
are
Go ahead.
tough,
Yeah, we touched on that.
Context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Tetanus, thank you for donating. I've been involved in a number of cults. All right. Both as leader and a follower. You may have more fun as a follower, but you'll have more money as a leader. I feel like that's a quote from that's from The Office. That's some voice
that
slop
was
for
a
you.
sweet-
GeoGasser. Oh no, school. Oh my God, I can't even read that. That's so gay.
Oh, now
To
school
advocates,
shootings.
done with the lib taking talking points, please.
Don't know
Oh,
what
school
that was
shootings.
about.
And last and least, from Jared Stevens, fellas got mogged by a chicken. Hell yeah. There we go. All right.
All right, let me
Now we're done with the comments. Have at it, fellas.
real quick. What I was going to say is what Nick has done well, whether you know his intent is whatever it is that I've been involved with a number of campaigns, and there are groypers inside the campaigns, and I touched on this on a space the other day with APAC, I think, and there are groypers on campaigns, but the problem is, and again, this is a systemic issue, is that they never transfer to staffers. And if they ever are transferred to staffers, they're out almost immediately. And so what happens is we have these campaigns that are groypers, or whether they're running or they're volunteering or knocking on doors or whatever that is. They help these candidates win, whether that's Fishback or Casey or I don't know who else, Mark Lynch or whoever's running, whether they're in there or not. They win these elections for these people that then go to the office. But as soon as they're elected, what happens? They get issued a handler. And as soon as they get issued a handler, then you have the transition team. The handlers run the transition team, and then they pick the staffers. And the staffers are already chosen for them before they even get to DC. And so a lot of what happens is you have these guys that are running the field. They can't move, just like Tom was talking about. They could, but it's a major sacrifice, and there's no money in DC staffing. There's no money there. They get paid other ways. We know this, and so At the end of the day, the Groypers are essentially doing the bidding, and you can say this is a Trump administration too. The Groypers are essentially doing the bidding so that they can be replaced when they actually win. And so there's no process for this to be fixed that I know of outside of preemptively preparing yourself via contract. But I don't think many people even have the knowledge that this is going to happen or the ability to build a contract in which they are on the transition team to staffer, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more
Yeah.
inside baseball than necessary, but
Well, we talked about this, right? When it was I forget what it was, might have been the Wall Street Journal, because it was recently they publicized it in California. There was recently in California that was legislation that was, or a handout or something that notified people. And so it was like a historic moment because it was the first time a Groyper ever appeared in like an actual legal document, right? So California had been aware that this was actually going on. So I don't know if you guys have seen this at all. I think the story's actually been getting heavily suppressed. But like we had talked about,
they deemed
I
them
think you're
terrorist
right.
organization.
Not that they deemed it as terrorists, but it was like basically like a warning. It was like a warning that they have now identified, and they see they likened it to the Democratic Socialist infiltration. And so they were warning other people to be wary that Groypers are infiltrating these campaigns. That was kind of like the memo that was sent out. But we talked about this, and I would agree with you, which is you would have to bake it into the cake. You would have to bake it into the cake, like what you had said, preemptively, whether it's through contracts or putting people in positions that it kind of like either like a domino effect, where it's kind of a guarantee. You know, when this person leaves the transition team, this person will automatically get shot into this position over here. And I think that's probably the ball game that they're probably dealing with right now. And so if they're already infiltrating the system, I mean, it was laughable a year ago. If you were to say the Groypers are infiltrating politics, you would say that's not happening. That's not real. But now we have a lot more evidence showing that it is happening. So I would imagine that these conversations are being had by people who are much more in the know, who are trying to hide their power levels. And so I would just say, let's see where it goes.
Also, last year they had this one study that staffers that are actually like in Washington D.C. already for conservatives, it's like estimated about like 30% of them are Groypers. Like the ones that already transitioned that are there. This was a concern that the Republican Party had last year after like those text chats leaked. Remember that issue that happened last year where it was that conservative
Gavin
Wax.
Yeah, it was like all that stuff that went down, and then it happened at all these conservative youth groups all over the country. They already have like people in positions. Now, granted, is it every single one of them? No, and that is a problem. It does suck a lot that, you know, you work on a campaign and you're trying to do this, and then they just replace you with somebody who's going to be more or less the same either way. That is an issue, but there are people that are getting around that. So,
Yeah, but if
I don't
they're
know
in these
how much,
campaigns and
but
they're
it is
hiding their
happening.
power level, if they're in the campaigns or they're in staffers and they're hiding their power level, I mean, if you have 30% control of something, I mean, that's a lot. Like that's a lot. And why are we hiding our power level again at 30%?
Because obviously, if you weren't doing that,
because
they
it's
would
not
get
80.
rid of you. Yeah, like it's the goal isn't to have like a little bit of control or whatever. That's not like the whole point. The goal is to constantly always have people there, regardless, even in Democratic
Doing what?
groups as well.
Well,
To just like work towards like
How?
I mean, it depends on like what they're trying to do for each campaign or for each staff. I mean, I know like it's not going to be some ground-based thing for like everybody, but like for the ones that are campaigning, it's a lot of infiltration for like giving information. That's how Nick gets like insider information from certain people because they work in Washington D.C. They tell him things before they happen. That's like a big part of it.
Well,
But
So
it's
it's a
not to
service,
ever
Nick.
stop.
Well, let me step in. You pose the how as if like it's never happened before. You know, the California memo I just referenced is likened it to when the DSA did do it. You know, and it did happen. And it was like what the ideal is like for 70 years, no one had any idea that the DSA was infiltrating. They were aware. They had many things and many trying to things that they tried to gatekeep these people from getting in, but they still overtook the institutions. So I just think you asked why are they hiding their power level? Well, there's an element of this which is you can be a pro-Trump, I'm a MAGA person and say, you know, we want, you know, mass deportations, we're working on that. We want this and this and this, and no one's going to catch a thing. But if you say you're a Groyper or you say Nick Fuentes, et cetera, along those lines, you're going to get combed out. And I think as what we see in California, they're like sending memos. It's like they're scared. They're like, wait a minute, how widespread is this actually? And so when you know that, like, if you just by mere mention of maybe sharing a Nick clip or saying Groyper, you can get combed out, of course they're going to hide their power levels, especially when it's easy to basically cloak yourself into the supposed 2024 promises of the MAGA administration or the MAGA campaign, I would say.
Listen,
if I could interject something.
No.
It's well, I'm moderator, so shut up. So this is kind of a question to Zeb and John, which is, well, it's really to everybody, that there's an argument.
Who's this question for, man? Damn it, man. Who's this question for?
It's for me. I'll answer. So we're basically arguing, what is the final solution? Pause. Is it a violent or let me pose it this way. What are our enemies more afraid of? Everyone waking up and having some sort of violent revolution and overtaking, or us subverting the system and taking over it from within? And that's kind of the crux of this whole debate, is which is the more effective solution. Now, I think basically what one side is saying is that the other is completely impossible, but the enemy is afraid of both. But which one is more attainable?
They don't fear the subversion.
I don't think so.
Yeah, they don't.
Why would they write the memos if they weren't afraid?
Okay, Joe Biden pushed out white supremacy as the greatest threat to America. I mean,
yeah, that's how the left wins elections. Nick Fuentes is doing
it's like
a favor.
You don't actually believe the 30%, do you? Like that number's insane.
I think what came from Rod Dreher. Okay, that's for starters. And I would add on top of that, I think he was trying to exacerbate the number to maybe initiate people starting to check their campaigns and groupings for people who had similar, thoughts and feelings. I don't have a full opinion of Rod Dreher, but I think Rod Dreher didn't do it because he's trying to boost the Groypers. I think he did it to initiate people stopping it and gatekeeping it, which I would say means that there's probably, what's the non-zero number? So is it 20%? Is it 15%? It at least shows you that they have
7 or 8, maybe. I think that's the high end.
Because, I think Atlas said earlier, it's like a year ago, everybody said it was impossible and that it wouldn't happen, and now it's obviously happened. So it's not impossible.
Right. Yeah, but it's not obviously. It's not obvious it's happened. There's no product to show for it. Only,
but you're also expecting progress in a year.
Well, you're saying Nick is playing the long game, which is ineffective, and why aren't we seeing results now? Well, he's playing the long game.
Well, that's one element, but I would also go back to this. We're talking about inside a mechanism or a nexus where if you tell the statistics, if you take the mask off, the game's over. So we're probably not going to have an accurate idea of what's happening, because the whole gist of the game is to not let people know it's happening. So would you expect that Nick's going to start highlighting this campaign in Utah, we have 10 Groypers on it? No, why would he do that? It would basically just it would give up the game. These guys are gone. So there's an element of the kind of subterfuge there where we're not really going to see it, the fog of war of what's actually happening.
I question the mindset of someone who looks at any obstacle whatsoever and their initial thought is to subvert it rather than to punch it in the face. Because the subverters are what we call Jewish. Gay or women.
And Jewish.
But I repeat myself.
But it goes to the
very
complexities
fact that your brain looks at the problem and says, let's subvert, period, to any problem, is a training you've been given against your will without realizing it.
Well, we can talk about how gay you might think it is. The reality is this white country that was meant for free white peoples only, very specifically so, is now a government and country ran by women and brown people. So you can think of it as gay as much as you want. It was clearly effective. And so the matter is, and I would actually say this in a more general sense between the right wing and the left wing, is we got to just stop caring about trying to play honorably. It's like playing a game of Monopoly.
It wasn't subversive. Whites and blacks were forced together in schools at gunpoint.
Yeah. And that's the America we live in now.
Subversion. All the changes that happened We're done with force and violence, not subversion.
But you
What
say
about
that irrespective of what it took to get that to be a cultural acceptable reality, which is
That
to
came
say
after
all of
the
the subversion
gunpoint.
that happened in the institutions
Like,
through
get
that.
in that school building and learn something.
Well, that's
And
like
they did.
no, because no. Because that's like
They got in
basically
the
saying
building, I
every
mean.
DSA individual was like holding a gun to the professor of the college they infiltrated. They were holding a gun to the lawyer they got their job from. They were holding a gun to the, no. Their subversion allowed that to take place. And it was a long game, truth be told. I mean, most people put it around 60, 70 years. But it was a series of subversion that was required before you could get to a point where people in the crowd were like, yeah, you should let these black kids go into this school. There shouldn't be no segregation. It took a lot of actual cultural degradation before we got to that reality. And sure, yeah, the government holding force against its people is an element
Rosa
of it.
Parks and shit. That didn't
Rosa
happen.
Parks' husband had a car, and
That's what I'm
she
saying.
is put on by a Jewish person. Yeah, the Rosa
I'm
Parks
saying.
story is
That's my
complete
point.
fabrication.
yeah,
Yeah,
but he's
my
saying
point.
that subversion happened before all that,
right.
and that's how they were
Like
able
Rosa
to
Parks
force
wasn't the start
people
of the subversion.
together. Like the
I'm not.
subversion
Yeah, I wasn't
happened like
saying that.
way before.
I just don't understand how y'all think you're gonna subvert the subverters.
I'm just saying
It's not in our
like
nature.
it's like this is something we're attempting to try and salvage or save the system from complete collapse. We say we're going to do something, everybody says, well, it's not possible, and then a year later they're like, oh, hey, yeah, they did it and we need to be on the lookout for it. And then it's obviously possible. And
Yeah.
like what Atlas said is like, we just have to stop being afraid to play dirty. Now, that might not be something you guys give a shit about, but for like younger Americans, that is an idea they are entertaining. And regardless of what you think, that's something they're going to do. So
No, what I'm actually saying is that we went through this exact thing as supporting Trump as part of the whole fucking meme team and all of that is like, oh, let's fucking not counter signal Trump because we don't want to make anybody angry and we want to, we got to be clever here and get inside all these institutions and take them over.
Did Trump
Didn't
win?
work. Not in 2020. He
John
did not.
said it so nice he could say it twice.
Yeah, am I debating Chuck right now? Sounds like it.
Yo,
Chuck, are you there?
Well,
Are you
like
there
I
with
said
us?
earlier, is the one nice thing about all this is we're gonna find out one way or another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Chuck, if
and
you
I
can
would
hear
say-
me, please save us.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think that's where me and Tom are at, which is we're gonna do our absolute damnedest to do everything we
you
can
are
to do
gonna
it in the
think
pathway
you're
that's not
doing
going to
this
throw the country for a loop.
incremental change, and when you're gonna realize 10 years later is that they were doing it to you. Guarantee it.
I think that's
I
better
think
than
that's-
Now-
just wanting to just die from execution with my nuts hanging out, dog.
Now,
You
now,
just
John,
can't understand that mentality without thinking it means someone wants to die. You just
What
can't
the
get it.
hell?
I think.
But
But
think
John,
it's a
I think-
fallacy because if now
What
that
was
we know
that?
the game, because we know the
What-
game now, right? Like it's kind of more out in the open. So I think when you post something like that, like the subverters are going to subvert you, it's like, no, I think the game's a lot more transparent now. It's the same way with women behavior. 50
all
years
said the
ago, men could
same
tell themselves
things,
they
man.
love women. Men can't do that anymore because women's behavior is a lot more transparent. We have a lot of problems going on because of the transparency of that. It's not to say that certain things are permanent. Subversion works so much better too in a pre-digital environment because the communication and information channels were much more harder to use or co-opt or to, basically kind of, massively spread. So I think there's a lot of different changes about the actual mechanics that is, surrounding the situation that we are talking about.
Then I'll say I hope you're right.
Me too.
I think
that's
this
what we
argument
should
just
do.
comes down to, is Nick a Fed? Because this idea that because Trump was a subverter, that therefore anything that comes after is in that same vein, which I know that's not what you believe, John, but it is how it comes across.
Say that again.
It's almost midnight. That's crazy.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, I know. We better
I
wrap
got time.
soon.
Trump did not make us follow him by being a subverter. It was the opposite. He was the only one not being subversive. You're saying he has now revealed himself to be subversive. I don't know that I can disagree with that. But you're saying I think because Trump was that way, Nick is that way?
Well,
Is
yeah,
what
and
you're
I mean that's what you've been saying all night. Am I wrong?
I'm saying I'm concerned that's yeah, I think he is that. I think I also said I'm not in his head and I have no way of
Well,
actually
yeah. That I'm not saying that like you're saying that point with any definitude. I'm just pointing out that you had just stated
Yeah,
that
you're
we
pointing
would
out that I
regret this in
spotted
10
a
years. In 10
pattern.
years, we would look back and be like, "Oh, you were right," and you're using
Not
your personal
threatening you
experience
with
with
that.
Trump to
I
say
am
that.
not threatening you with that. Not yet. A lot of people say predictions is like some kind of gay threat, like, "Oh, you're gonna wait till you see what happens." That's not what I'm doing. I may sound like that. I guess I realize what you're saying. No, I genuinely fucking hope that I'm wrong and that that does not happen. I'm not threatening you with it.
I
I
know.
think if you play a subversive game with the people in control of the world, you're gonna find out the hard way that you don't know quite as much about being subversive as you thought you did.
And
Well,
and that is a fair point.
Yeah,
on
like
that
that's
point, though, there was clear and obvious like specifics that happened between the first and the second Trump administration. Now, some things were still questionable during the first administration, but when Trump's up against what was it, like 18 bajillion lawsuits, you know, what he was basically facing at that point was similar to Alex Jones. It was like, dude, if you lose this case, it's like it's over for you. And the same thing with Trump, right? Like, you know, an old man is basically a death sentence at his age going to prison. And I think the expectation that like the Democrats would put him in some nice, comfy jail, I think is, you know, you'd have to be beside yourself to make that point. So I don't think you can compare a a Trump administration or a Trump entity that was a movement, the MAGA movement, to what the America First movement is. After 10 years, I think you could make that comparison to see what has occurred there. But I think it's just again apples and oranges.
I think, well, like I said, we're gonna know in 10 years whether we want to or not. We're gonna find out if Nick is legit or not. I don't think you can go much longer that while being full of shit. So, but to be clear, I'm not comparing movements. I'm saying there is a pattern of this type of leader, and a pattern of how it goes, and a pattern of how it ends. Are there exceptions to that pattern? Sure, there sure could be. Don't disagree with that at all. I smell a pattern, though. That's all I'm saying.
That's just low IQ, Josh.
That's low IQ, anti-Semitism.
Hey, I wasn't gonna say it.
That's just what.
All right. I've got one last question, and then we're gonna wrap it up. John, this is for you.
Okay.
Who would be better at running the United States of America? Chimpanzees, bonobos, or gorillas?
None of them. They're all fucking cunts. Probably gorillas is what we would want. They're actually pretty nice. They're kind of stupid,
Fair
though.
enough.
Chimps and bonobos
I recommend.
are smart, but they just be like butt fucking each other all the time.
Full on reconstruction.
So not much
for?
different than what we have now.
yeah, basically the GOP.
It's true. True.
All right.
Grindr
Well,
fuck each other, fuck those people.
Grinder at the TPUSA events. Well, everybody, I want to thank. It was a good discussion. I think I actually learned a lot because of of course I know the Groyper arguments, but sometimes it takes John checking Zeb for Zeb to make his points a whole lot better. You know what I mean? You make so much more sense when you're saying it next to John Zeb. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I want to thank you for watching this second edition of NAV DMC.
NAV DMC, where debates become blood sports with a new American vision.